In the matter of Vasquez versus Salva. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Vasquez, you and the defendant are sort of neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a home.
Yes, ma'am.
And you live on top of a hill.
Sort of, yes, ma'am.
Defendant's home is sort of at the bottom of the hill.
Yes, ma'am.
According to what I've read in your complaint, your home has a swimming pool.
That's correct.
And you decided to drain your swimming pool.
That's correct.
And the defendant came to you and told you that the water, which you knew was going downhill,
yes, ma'am,
had damaged her home. How had it damaged your home?
It flooded my back porch, my septic tank, and went right in my back door and flooded the carpet.
And when Mrs. Salva came to you, did you go and look at the damage?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you see the wet carpet?
Yes, ma'am.
And you, of course, agreed to pay for the damage?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you pay her for the damage?
$225 for the draining of both septic tanks and $261 for replacing the carpet and padding. $40 for someone to come down and put it in, a friend of mine. That was all.
Okay. Now, tell me why you want that money back, plus additional money for aggravation.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to get recompensated back because of the fact that Mr. Stringfellow that sits here, this is Billy Stringfellow, the biological dad of the young gentleman that's over here. The young gentleman went to his house.
So your son went to his father's house. This is your ex-husband.
Yes.
And
told Mr. Stringfellow that that it was not so what took place. So they both drove to my house.
They came to your house. Who came to your house? Mr.
Mr.
Stringfellow
and
his son.
The young boy.
Step up, sir. Tell me what you told Mr. Vasquez.
I told Mr. Vasquez that my son told me that they had flooded their own stuff out there and had got raw sewage from the yard and put it to the carpet. That's what my son was telling me, and the young was telling the truth about it.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
And so, what did you do?
I told Mr. Vasquez that he was defrauded.
Okay. What's your son's name?
Mitchell.
Mitchell, come up here, Mitchell. That's why you want your money back?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you, Mitchell?
12.
You know who I am.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you nervous today?
Yes, ma'am.
You look a little nervous today, Mitchell. Do you go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
What grade are you in?
5th.
Do you do well in school?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I've had a few problems here in school.
What kind of problems, Mitchell?
Grade problems.
You have any problems at home? Look at me.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what kind of problems you have at home.
I get yelled at a lot.
By your mom?
By Robert. He's my dad. Well, my stepdad.
How long has your mom been married to Robert?
I think 5 years.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have a sister.
How old is your sister?
11.
Any other children in the house?
Wesley.
How old is Wesley?
12.
And is Wesley Robert's son?
Yes.
Do they get yelled at too?
I don't see them get yelled at a lot.
You don't see them getting yelled at. You get yelled at more.
Yes.
Any reason for that, you think?
No.
Have you talked to your mom about that?
Yes, actually I have.
What does she say?
Sometimes she won't listen, and sometimes she does.
Okay. You know anything about this problem that happened because of the flooding in your house?
Yes.
You want to tell me about it? You want to tell me about it privately, or you want to tell me about it here?
We could do it privately.
Then let's do it privately. Come on in the back.
Order.
Miss Salva, it is your claim that the damage that was caused by this flooding. And I see from your papers that you have a videotape of that.
Yes,
is that
ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see the videotape.
This is the neighbor's pump that's draining their pool, and it's just flowing in our yard and the neighbor's yard. It smells horrible out here. He has done flooded both of our septic tanks. You see, it is overflowed, running all on my back porch, all the way to my pool step area, down to my driveway, all the way back over here. This is the second septic tank that is overflowed, which has run all the way up into the house.
Oh. So there's a valve. Both my septic tanks are overflowing.
Flooded. Run all over my yard.
Bert, stop it there, please. Would
We
you
tried
please?
to.
Stop it there. And I want you to back it up a little bit, please. Back it up about 5 seconds. Keep going, 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 keep going. Now, I want you to stop it right there. Thank you. You've been married 5 years, Miss Salva?
Yes, ma'am.
You have 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
Your husband has 1 child.
Yes, ma'am.
You punish your children by hitting them with a belt?
No, ma'am, I do not.
I want you to pay very careful attention to me, Miss Alva. When I ask you a question, I expect a truthful answer. If I don't get a truthful answer from you, you're in serious trouble. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Does your husband Robert punish the children with a belt?
No, ma'am, he doesn't.
I don't believe you.
He doesn't.
I don't believe you. Was your son living with his father for some time last year?
For about 2 months.
Why was he living with his father?
He was stealing and sneaking out at night, and that was just a last resort to try to straighten him out, and that didn't work.
Explain to me why it didn't work.
His father had went out of town and left him there for I don't know how long without any supervision. So I went and picked him up.
Did you go out of town, sir?
No, ma'am, I didn't go out of town. I was at home. She went and took the young'un out of school, didn't call me, didn't do nothing, and it costed me new uniforms, new everything. She didn't call me, didn't say nothing. She just come picked him up. 2 weeks, so he didn't even go to school. And my daughter, she hadn't been in school in over a year.
Is that right,
Yes,
Salva?
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. She's
Why is that?
homeschooled. She, well,
Homeschooled by whom?
by me.
What college did you graduate from?
I went to the George County Occupational Training Center, but I did not
What
graduate.
university did you graduate from?
I did not graduate
Then
from
how are you
university.
homeschooling your children?
It's just one that I homeschool.
Why?
Because 2 years ago, when she went to his house for the weekend, she was in a very bad wreck and flipped 5 times, and she has problems from that.
And you've been told to homeschool her?
No,
Or you
ma'am.
decided to homeschool her?
That was my choice.
Right. Miss Alva, I'm going to make some suggestions to you, and I want you to take them to heart. Your primary responsibility is to your 2 children. Your primary responsibility is to see to it that your 2 children are raised with a reasonable moral code, that they don't see their parents being involved in lying or cheating or stealing. That's your primary responsibility. And your husband, Robert, it is not his responsibility to corporally punish your children. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this young man I find to be a charming young man. Bright, very likable. He has the potential to be a nice young man. You and your family are screwing that up. You see that spot?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a dry spot.
It had already
That's
been
a
swept
dry
away.
spot. That's a dry spot that was there before your husband forced your son to take a hose and flood the inside of your house. Now, that doesn't mean, Mr. Vasquez, that there wasn't a lot of damage done by your pool. It's clear to me, based on these photographs, that your pool drainage did some damage. Next time you'll figure out some other way to drain your pool. That's not the point here. I don't know what motivated you to pit your son against his mother
Yes, ma'am.
and his stepfather, which may have ramifications. I'm going to give you some advice about that in a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I will see to it that a call is made to Child Protective Services where you live to monitor your home. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to see to it that there are no ramifications to this child or any other child in your house as a result of what happened today. So the call is going to be made by me to Child Protective Services where you live to come out and take a look at what's going on in your house. But I think it was a mistake on your part, sir, to put your son in the middle. It was a mistake.
It had to be done. It had to be done.
No.
And,
It didn't have to be done that way. Listen to me. Your son was living with his mother and his stepfather. Stepfather who, according to your son, uses corporal punishment as a way of punishing both himself and his sibling. Now, prior to Robert corporally punishing the children with a belt, she did. Now, I didn't ask about you.
I don't.
He seemed to be very happy when he was living with you, and he doesn't know why his mother came and took him away. You pay his mother child support?
No, he does not.
Oh, Miss Judy.
I asked you a question.
No,
That
ma'am.
requires a yes or a no.
Ma'am. No, ma'am. But them young's needs on my part gets anything that can be.
Don't give me talk.
Yes, ma'am.
Money.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you pay. Money to take care of your children. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because let me explain to you what happens if you don't do that. Listen to me carefully. What happens is her husband feels as if he's supporting your children, which gives him license to hit him with a belt. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So you start paying support. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
We were supposed to get married. He acknowledged me as his fiancée.
When he said, meet me at Rimworld, why didn't you say, meet me at the jeweler?
I should have.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Vasquez claims neighbor Betty Salva owes for the cost to repair flood damage to her home. William says Betty conned him into thinking he was at fault.
May I say something, please?
Yes.
There's also a three-year-old little girl that lives there. Also, I don't think she told you about. That
I didn't hear about any 3-year-old little
Well,
girl.
they
He
have-
didn't tell me about a 3-year-old little girl.
Custody of her.
Whose child is that?
It's my brother's daughter, and I've had her since the day she was born.
Well, I looked over my fence and I seen the child out there unsupervised around the pool area, no supervision, for 10 minutes.
No.
Mr. Vasquez, this is what I'm telling you, sir. I'm not giving you any money back. You did the wrong thing. You drained your pool into a place, and it made a mess in their house. They don't have to have a mess in their house, and I am not an engineer, so I'm not going to be able to say what damage your pool did and what damage they did themselves in order to enhance the claim. I can't separate that. What I can tell these people is something is not right, and the advantage of having this case heard today is that I am going to get a team of social workers out to her house to see what's going on there. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Step out.
Excuse me, step out.
I feel like she's doing the right thing by having someone look after the young
She
one.
is.
I don't like the way that he upset my son. My son said things because he was very scared of him, and he has been abuseful in the past.
I'm going to do everything I can to get that child away from her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hervey versus Hill. Step forward, please.
Caregiver Keith Hervey Sr. is suing his ex-lover, 24-year-old student Jamie Hill, for an unpaid loan for rims and a car stereo.
Mr. Hervey, how long was the defendant your girlfriend?
For about 7 years.
7 years?
7 to 8 years, ma'am.
Your complaint is that you made a loan to her,
Right.
and the loan was for new rims for her car
Right.
and a stereo for her car.
Yes, ma'am.
And those new rims and stereo cost $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Hill says she doesn't give a rat's behind about rims, and she doesn't care if she's got AM or FM. Rims and stereos are a guy thing. You made her a present. You wanted her to have a hot-looking car. This was a gift. She doesn't owe you anything. As a matter of fact, she would let you take the things back, except that she would have to replace what was taken off the car. Is that right?
Yes.
So tell me, when you made this loan to Miss Hill,
July the 14th.
well, tell me about that. Why would you do that? Did you come into some money?
And my family, we sued tires on June the 8th. We sued for $25 million, ma'am.
And so how much money did you collect?
$40,000, ma'am.
You got $40,000. You had a whole lot of money.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was your girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you buy yourself?
I bought me a 1999 Suburban.
And at the same time that you got yourself a Suburban,
Yes, ma'am.
did you get the rims and stereo for her car?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have anything put in your Suburban? At the
Yes,
same
ma'am.
time, some additional stuff put in your Suburban?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not looking good for you, Mr. Hervey. So I'm going to let you very, very quickly, because I have other things to do today.
Yes, ma'am.
You tell me this agreement that you made with your girlfriend of 7 years.
Okay. First of all,
Not first of all, just tell me about the agreement.
the agreement was made when she get her taxes back and her school check. She'll pay me my money back. That was the agreement we had made. Then when we ended up breaking up October the 2nd, and I found a new girlfriend. She had came by my house and threatened me that she'll cut my tires up on my Suburban. And so when she left, she called back again, threatened me, saying that I'm not going to get anything back. That's when I put in that complaint on March the 3rd.
Go.
Mr. Hervey gave me these things as a gift. When he received that $40,000, that was his part of giving me something out of the money. I never asked him to buy these things for me. That was what he wanted to do. I never went to Mr. Hervey and threatened Mr. Hervey.
I don't care about the threats. I just want to hear about the rims.
Okay, he called me on July 24th and told me to meet him at Rim World. And when
At Rim World?
Rim World. I didn't even know how to get there. When I met him, he called me, he told me how to get there. And he told me, pick out the rims that you want. And see, I told him, quit blowing all this money. I didn't even ask for these things. I said, we were supposed to get married. He acknowledged me as his fiancé. And I have papers here on his insurance acknowledged me as his fiancé.
Listen to me. First of all, Mr. Hervey, I listened to you.
Yes, ma'am.
If it wasn't a present, it should have been a present. 7, 8 years, and then you found another girlfriend. You should have said, forget it, take your rims and stereo. But it probably was a little bit of puffing. You got some money, you bought yourself a big new car, you put something in her car. Miss Hill, what I don't understand about you is, when he said, meet me at Rim World, why didn't you say, meet me at the jeweler?
I should have.
He acknowledged you as his fiancé?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where is the ring he bought you?
Oh, he didn't buy me a ring.
That's what he considered a rim. Mr. Hervey.
Yes, ma'am.
Why are you bothering with this, sir? If you got money, $40,000, is that the biggest amount of money that you've ever gotten?
Well, yes.
Why would you go out and blow the whole thing on a car?
Well, at the time, that's what I wanted.
I understand that's what you wanted. How old are you?
I'm 39.
Mr. Hervey, at 39, that's not all that you're supposed to want. Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
if you get $40,000, put your hand down, that's a lot of money. You take some, you put it away, you put it in the bank, you invest it, you put it in a CD. You don't blow it all on rims and stereos and a big car. That's something that a 20-year-old does, not somebody who's 40. And 39 is really close to 40.
It's on the calendar in the matter of Reese versus Harden. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Reese, according to what I've read, you were riding your horse. Along with you was your son. I assume this was his son who's going to sit up straight and put his feet together. Your son who was riding an all-terrain vehicle, and your 2 dogs. And it is your claim that while you were on this ride, the defendant assaulted you, your son, your horse. I don't know about the dogs. I don't think he assaulted the dogs, although he tried to take one of the dogs. Mr. Harden says you were trespassing on his property. You've been told before that this was private property, and that you and or your son assaulted him. And you have a counterclaim. Where is this property located?
In Phelan, California. I have pictures to give you a mindset.
Okay.
And here's a couple aerials. And it's plainly marked of the wash.
Go ahead, Miss Reyes.
I was riding my horse. My son follows me on his quad. My 2 dogs, they always go with us. We went down into the wash, and I saw this man standing in the middle of the wash. So I slowed my horse down. I went to ask him if he needed any help, because New Year's Day, everybody was out riding their bikes and motorcycles and all that stuff. And I figured he ran out of gas, couldn't get started. So I was going to actually ask him if he needed assistance. And he started pointing at me and yelling at me that, I talked to you before, I talked to you before. I go, no, you've never spoke to me before. And he's going, well, this is private property. You know this is private property. I'm going, no, I don't know that this is private property, because it's a waterway. He goes on and tells me that he doesn't appreciate people riding through his property, and especially with dogs that are off lead. I'm going, don't be an... We live out here in Booneyville. And that provoked him, and he lost his temper, and he started screaming at me, saying that he politely informed me that I was riding on his private property and that he didn't appreciate it. And just to get out of it, I just nudged my horse and I went to walk off, just to leave, let him go. And he pulls back his arm. He's losing total control. He pulls back his arm, trying to strike me. I'm on top of the horse, can't hit me. So he picks up rocks and sand and throws it at me. I duck into the horse. The rocks and the sand hit my horse's butt and the back of my back of my head. And so my son and I are riding off. And I have a ding-dong dog. She doesn't have a violent bone in her body. Flipping over at his feet so he can scratch her belly. and I'm hollering at her, and she won't come because she thinks she's going to get some attention. So he scoops her up and starts walking to his house. And my son and I are still riding off. I go, fine, keep her, I don't like her anyway. Figuring that, okay, he'd just drop her and the whole incident would be over. He didn't. So I had to turn my horse around, go running back. My horse won't go near the person because he's scared. So I'm kicking my horse, trying to get to the dog to get the dog out of this man's hands. So I'm leaning off the horse, 14-hand horse isn't that tall, and I'm grabbing the scruff of my dog, and he's trying to hit me still. And
he was walking away. What do you mean he's trying to hit you still?
Okay, he's trying to hold the dog, and he's trying to hit me off so I can't get the dog. So I'm trying to get my dog because he's already said that his dogs will take care of my dog. As I'm riding off, that's why I turned around. And so he put down to the dog and grabbed my son and said, fine, I'll take him instead. Had him in a chokehold up off the ground. And his wife shows up behind him, says, I have it all on videotape. I says, well, you better have this on tape. And I'm yelling at her to help me to get this man to let go of my son. And she's yelling at him, let him go, you'll lose your son. And so he let my son go. And Mr. Harden grabbed the bit of my horse. The horse reared up, fell over, landing on my leg. I was able to step off the horse landing on my leg. The horse got up. Don't ask me how, but I was still on him. And we just got out of there. Now, we were riding out of the wash, and I arrived with a cell phone, so I called my husband. My husband called the police. We live way back in, so I had the police officer meet me on the corner.
You have a police report?
No, they would not release it to any of us. We all tried because of the minor in the police report.
Okay, Mr. Harden, why don't you tell me your version of what happened?
Well, ma'am, on January 1st of this year, my wife and I was working out in our front yard. I heard first a motorbike back in my property. I have 8 acres, and I looked up, and I seen a helmeted rider going down through that wash. So I decided to go. I thought it was the boys down there riding, tearing up my land down there. So I walked down to the middle of the wash, and I stood waiting to see if there were going to be other riders coming through or if that rider was going to come back through so that I could tell him, you know, that this is private property. As I was waiting, I saw this horse rider galloping along that back end of that wash. I'm still in the middle of the field down there, so I continued to walk down to the end of that part of the field to my property line. I met Mrs. Reese there right at my property line on that sandy area. When she first walked up, was actually galloping, I put my hand up like this. And she just kind of slowed down, and then she got right up with me. I could see her a little better, and I said, haven't we talked before? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, did you know that this is private property? She's like, so? She's like, you don't have a sign up here. And I was like, well.
You're yelling at me, and
just don't interrupt him.
So I says, well, I'm telling you, this is private property. You need to turn around and come back the way you came. She says, no, I don't have to. And she starts to ride on through me, just ride on through me. So I'm just standing there. I step to the side. As she's walking by me, she says, you. And so I stood there and I says, well, why am I? And you're trespassing on my property. She takes about another 10 steps, a few more yards, turns the horse around, says, you. And charged me. First she kicked the horse, she yelled, yah, and charged me. I stood there. When the horse got within an arm's length of me, I jumped to the side and grabbed the horse's reins. When I grabbed the horse's reins, she kicked at me twice. The second time she kicked at me, I let go of the horse's reins. At this time, her son drives up on his ATV. When he drove up on the ATV, she yells at him, run his over, kick his. And so I looked at Trevor, because she's yelling his name, that's how I knew his name. I looked at Trevor, he looked at me, and he didn't make a move. That's when she decided to still continue through my property. When she did that, there was some dogs there. One of the dogs stood by me, didn't lay on his back or anything, he just stood there on all fours next to me as they're leaving. I picked the dog up, and I hear her yelling, you can have the dog. So I just continue to walk. I never turned around. All of a sudden, I hear the galloping, and I hear her galloping her horse. I still didn't turn around. She comes and she hits me on the side of my shoulder with her horse. Then she starts grabbing at the dog. At first, I didn't want to let the dog go, so I started turning around. Then she went down, she hit me again, she kicked me, and then she grabbed the horse or the dog by its ears and its head. When she did that, I released the dog because I thought that I feared for the dog, and I feared for my safety too, because, you know, that could really hurt a dog.
Whatever.
So I let the dog go. When I let the dog go, I told her right then, I said, you're trespassing. I want you to get off my property right now. She says, I don't have to. I have every right to be here. Then her son, Trevor, comes up again, gets off his motorbike, and starts walking over towards me. As he's walking towards me, she starts yelling, kick him in the Trevor, kick his. And when Trevor gets about this far from me, I says, Trevor, I'm a professional martial artist. She yells out, he's a martial artist too, kick his.
Trevor, I want you to come up here, Trevor, right here, right near where Bird is.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm asking you a question, and I expect the truth. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't want me to embarrass you.
No, ma'am.
I have the ability to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Patricia Reese claims neighbors Freeman and Laura Harden assaulted her and her son. The Hardens claim Patricia and her son were trespassing.
So I have a couple of questions for you, Trevor. I want you to think really hard. You remember that day?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times did your mother curse that day?
I do not.
Look at me and answer my question. How many times? And I want you to just remember, I'm asking you a question and I expect the truth. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't want me to embarrass you.
No, ma'am.
I have the ability to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
How many times did you hear your mother curse that day?
4, 5.
Okay. And what curse words did she use? How many times had you been on that particular property riding with your mother before?
Several times.
On your ATV?
Yes, behind the horse.
And it wasn't your intention to have a confrontation with anybody that day?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So you were out just for a pleasant ride?
Yes, ma'am.
When your mother started to curse at Mr. Harden, did you tell her not to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times did you tell your mother not to curse at Mr. Harden?
The first couple.
What did you say to your mother?
I was like, Mom, come on, let's just get out of here. Let's go. It's over.
Mr. Harden hadn't cursed at your mother before she cursed at him. Isn't that right?
I don't know, ma'am.
You didn't hear him?
No, ma'am. I had to turn around on the road.
You didn't hear Mr. Harden curse at your mother before she cursed at him?
Before, no.
Why don't you go have a seat?
May I add something, please?
Nothing. How old are you?
39.
If you live to be as old as I am, you're not going to be as smart as I am.
He had him in the chokehold when I told him
Pay
to
careful attention to what I'm saying to you, madam. You behaved badly.
I was protecting my son and my dog.
No, you instigated an incident, Miss
How?
Reyes.
I don't understand how.
Well, if you don't understand how, at age 39,
I'm
madam,
in the middle of
I'm
Goonies.
speaking!
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
You may say ma'am to me all you like and butter would melt in your mouth all you like. You instigated a situation with your son present because you have a big, fresh, filthy mouth that you opened up to somebody who may have been overreacting because somebody was trespassing on his property. And he came out to you and he said, you're trespassing on my property. Now, the correct response to that is, I didn't know this was private property.
And I did try to leave.
You pay careful attention to me, madam. You opened up a big, fresh, filthy mouth to him. That's what you did. And anybody, the advantage of sitting on a horse, goes to grab their dog, you say, by the bottom part of the throat. He says by the top. You're sitting, I assume, on a big horse.
No, 14.
You sitting on a pony?
Just about, yes.
Can I see your film, please?
You sure may.
I just want to see if this is a pony. That's all I want to see.
He's
Let me see
14
this
too.
pony. I don't want to hear from you.
Are you hitting my husband? Hold on, honey. Hey, I've got this all on video. You guys need to knock it off. Freeman, don't. I'm recording.
You can't. It's the law to have your dogs on a leash. It's the law.
Freeman, your dogs have to be on a leash because they're not under voice control when you are on a horse. And no, I'm telling you that. I'm recording. They have to be on a leash. That's the law. Brianna, I'm recording her.
Good.
You can sue her.
And that's where I'm leaving. That's the very first incident
All I
when
hear
I'm
you
leaving.
do is screaming. All I hear you do is screaming. I can't make out what you're saying, but I hear you screaming.
Surely not cuss words?
Madam, are you saying to me that your son was lying to me?
I did not call him the word, and I did.
Are you saying to me that your son was lying to me?
No, I'm not saying I didn't
Miss
cuss
Reyes,
at all.
Miss Reyes, you behaved badly. Stop complaining. How hurt were you?
I had some scratches on my back of my neck.
This whole incident.
I have county record that it is an easement.
Listen to me very
on record.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. You behaved
I'm not saying
badly. You behaved badly. You instigated an incident where none was necessary. Did you go to the doctor's office or did you go to the hospital?
I belong to Kaiser. I went to Kaiser.
Did they keep you there?
No.
Did they keep your son there?
No.
Did you take your horse to a vet?
Yes, I did.
Did they keep your horse there?
No, they did not.
Good. Let me go back to you, Mr. Harden. Do you think that you behaved 100% appropriately that day?
Well, ma'am, I had spoken with her before, and I do, as far as the...
I believe that you probably did. Because according to her son, they've ridden on that property numerous times before. Okay? Unfortunately, the way I see your property line, you can start out going down a trail that has nothing to do with your property. Is that right?
Was other people's property.
Shh. Listen to me. I'm not talking about other people. You're not a monitor for everybody else.
Right.
You can start going along a trail that is not your property. In order to get to the other side, you have to pass through your property, and then it's either somebody else's property or county property. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what you did was this narrow strip was the strip she went on.
Yes,
all right?
ma'am.
Now, you could have handled that in a variety of ways. When she opened up her big, fresh mouth to you, what could you have done, Mr. Hart? You could have gone back into your house and called the police and made a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. She would have been gone by then.
Maybe.
And I had spoken with her on 2 other occasions.
So, Mr. Hart, was it worth it?
No, because we have been very traumatized by this whole situation because she filed a false police report on me, said that I pulled her down off of that horse, and I never pulled that horse down. I don't think it's physically possible for me to pull the horse down to the ground, whether it's right or on it. Also, ma'am, Trevor, like I said, Trevor kicked me, and he punched me, and I grabbed him. No. And when I grabbed him, and I was holding him, I didn't choke him. I never took him off the ground and choked him. I held him because I am a professional martial artist, and I'm responsible. I can be in a lot of trouble.
He was agitated, and his mother was hyping him up.
Yes.
Fortunately for Trevor, he at least went, and I didn't even want to get into the incident with him. It was bad enough that he had to tell me in front of his mother what he did. Tell me. Because that was, I assume, very unpleasant for him to have to tell me that. Isn't that right, Trevor?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course it was. So I'm not putting him in any further box because his mother acted badly. And whatever happened as a result of that, she deserves. Period. End of discussion. What I'm telling you, Mr. Harden, is what you have to do is you have to say, I wasn't injured. You weren't injured.
I had bruises. I didn't.
You weren't injured.
No, I wasn't injured.
You weren't injured.
Bruises.
So
I had those.
What I'm saying to you, Mr. Harden, is could you have handled this situation differently? When I'm talking to what I assume reasonably intelligent people who came across each other on an afternoon, first of the year, New Year's Day, and could your actions that day have prevented a very, very unpleasant experience,
yes,
which the police refused to pursue, I assume?
Yes, they did refuse it. But they did come up to my house with the siren, and they were intending to arrest me.
They can't turn a siren on.
She drove them to my house.
Mrs. Reyes.
She drove them to my house, ma'am.
You have a bad temper, madam.
He's lying through his teeth.
Mrs. Reyes, you have a bad temper. And I don't believe that you've been 100% honest with me. I think.
The video showed 100% that I tried.
The video showed a big horse, not a pony. That's what the video showed, a big horse.
Ask my son, he's 14 too.
I saw it. It's a big horse.
No.
It's not a pony.
I didn't say he was a pony. I'm saying he's 14 too.
What you said to me a moment ago was almost like a pony.
I never said pony. I said he's 14.
Mrs. Reyes, do you hear the groans? I don't want to hear any groans. You have no case. The case is dismissed. Mr. Harden, you should have acted a little bit differently that day. She clearly instigated this incident, and I don't think that anybody is entitled to any money, financial recovery from anybody else. and the police refuse to pursue this matter because they probably believe that you both behaved badly, so do I. Your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim. That's all. Step out.
Parties are at Smith versus Nicholas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Smith, the defendant is your ex-husband, and you claim that he owes you a variety of things, bankruptcy filing fees and some money that you allegedly loaned to him. Mr. Nicholas says that you're a bit of a control freak, he just won't let it go, and he doesn't owe you a dime, right?
Correct.
When were you divorced?
April 11th of 2001.
You have children?
Yes, 2 of them.
Who do the children live with?
Me.
Does Mr. Nicholas have visitation with the children?
Yes, he does.
When?
When he feels like it. It's supposed to be every other weekend, but it hasn't been any kind of consistency since we divorced.
Your choice or his?
His choice.
How often do you see your children, Mr. Nicholas?
Not enough.
Your choice or hers?
Mostly her choice.
Sometimes yours?
There have been points in time where if I had to work on a Saturday and my son had a baseball game, then...
Gotcha. All right. Tell me what he owes you, why?
Okay. The first money is $80 he owes me for candy. Our son had a candy sale, and Omar had received 80 candy bars from me. 50 of them were ones he wanted, 30 of them were for his grandmother, who he resides with. Gave him the candy, he disappeared. When he came back, he had no job about 6-8 weeks later, and never gave me the money back.
Candy bars. Did you take them?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay for them?
No.
Okay, so you got to pay for your son's candy bars.
Well, I took them. I was a means of go-between. The candy was to go to my mother and my grandmother.
That's your job. She shouldn't have to go to your mother and your grandmother to get the money for them. $80.
No, they were the ones who were actually selling the candy.
Fine, get the money from them. $80. Candy bars. What's next?
On August 22nd of last year, he was to have the children for the weekend. His phone was disconnected. I am very nervous about my children being with him without a phone, so he asked me if I'd make a phone payment for him. I went down to the Sprint store and made an $80 payment. He was getting paid the next week, was supposed to pay me back. He was then fired about a week and a half later.
$80 phone payment. Do you owe her the money?
I don't believe so.
Why?
I never asked her to make the payment. She had called me at work Thursday prior to me receiving the kids on Friday and said, your phone's not on. How am I going to be able to get a hold of you during the weekend when you have the kids? I said, I don't know. Well, I'm going to go make the payment for you.
I believe that's probably how it happened. You don't owe her the money. It wasn't a loan. What's next? I'm going to take care of this really fast.
I understand. I mean, on the 17th of last year, of October of last year, after he had returned from being missing for about 6 weeks, he came to me and said that he needed his truck payment made, that he was going to have it repossessed. We made an agreement that I would go ahead and pay it. It was $485. I made it at a quick collect location. I even had to call him immediately to give him the MTC number, a tracking number, so that he could prove to them he made it. He never paid me back.
She made a payment, agreed upon me and her. If she made the payment, then I would drive to pick the children up and drop them off for an extended period of time.
Your Honor, his car was repossessed a week later. This was never...
How much child support were you paying?
Well, when I was working, it was being taken out of my check, and it was $455 a month.
But you had disappeared in October of 2002 for a while. Had you been working?
No.
In September?
No, I was laid off at the end of August.
So then you were not paying any child support?
Correct.
So not paying any child support for your 2 children, and in addition, you asked you to make a car payment for you.
That's incorrect. I did not ask her to make a payment. She said, knowing that I had been out of town for an extended period of time and was not employed, well, how are you paying your car payment? I said, well, I had not been for, the past 6 weeks.
How did she get the information, sir, that you can go to a quick cash place and take care of it?
I gave her the information.
Good. You gave her that information. Is that right?
That's right.
Good.
I never said that I would pay her back.
Listen to me carefully. Watch my mouth. I don't believe you. I believe you asked her to make the payment for you as a loan. $485.
And my ex-wife who divorced me is going to make a car payment for me that I asked her to?
Do you understand? No, it was a loan. No, she didn't do it as a gift. She did it as a loan. Next.
The last thing that I am asking for reimbursement on is I had to file bankruptcy. Omar, within our divorce, received a Mazda vehicle that was financed only in my name. He did not carry insurance on it. On July 11th...
Well, what genius judge gave him the Mazda vehicle in the divorce but kept your name on the loan?
No judge.
He couldn't get a loan for it, Your Honor. His credit was too bad.
The judge in divorce gave me the Honda.
He took possession of the vehicle in January
Possession
when I
of what
left
vehicle?
of the Mazda. I have the divorce here. It says that he is responsible for this vehicle and that any possessions that we have at that time. We had everything already
You had
split
two
together.
cars. You had a Mazda and a Honda.
He had possession of both of them when we divorced.
Okay, and you were supposed to get which car?
I was supposed to receive neither. He was supposed to sell the Honda. He had a friend who was supposed to be buying the Honda. That didn't happen. It got repossessed.
Story time.
You gave him the Mazda, but you had the loan for the Mazda in your name?
Right, and what my...
Shh. Were you making the payments on the Mazda?
He was to make the payments, and he didn't make the payments.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
That means either you had very, very bad counsel. Did you have an attorney?
I had a paralegal that did it for me.
Well, not too swift. If you own a car and you give the car to somebody else, but you maintain your obligation to pay for it, you have to be smart enough to carry insurance on it, and you don't rely on him, as you did. You're going to pay for it, and you're going to keep it insured, and you're going to do all the other things that you're supposed to do as a responsible human being. Because I gather what happened is the car was in an accident?
Correct.
While you were driving it?
Correct.
So you just stopped making payments if you ever did make the payments on it, is that right?
In a roundabout way.
And you never carried insurance on it?
Correct.
You really are a prize.
Well, Your Honor,
You're
can
a
I tell you what
prize.
happened?
Yeah, sure.
The vehicle was involved in an accident. I was cleared by the police as not being at fault. I gave Ms. Smith the police report so she could follow up on the owner of the vehicle.
Why is that her job?
Because it's in her name.
Let me tell you something. You're as thick as this table. Or that, or you're just used to somebody else cleaning up after your mess.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Are these your only two children?
Yes, they are.
The greatest gift you can give your children is a sense of morality. I hope that they can get that from their mother, because based upon what you tell me, they're certainly not getting it from you.
And later today,
Yeah, we're engaged. I treated our relationship as if we were getting married. We
Listen
were
to
planning
me.
our wedding.
Engaged is not married. And if you choose not to do that, don't bother me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stacy Smith claims ex-husband Omar Nicholas owes for a series of unpaid loans. Omar claims Stacy gave him the money.
You're driving the car. You're getting the pleasure from it. You're in an accident, your fault or not. You were in the accident, not her. You have possession of the car. You were supposed to make the payments on the car. She was supposed to be absolved of those payments, and you say to her, I gave you the information. Follow up on it.
The
Honey,
payments have nothing to do with whether the fact that she had to file bankruptcy on it.
let me ask you this question, Mr. Wonderful. Who's responsible to the bank on the car?
The person who has the loan.
Don't be smart with me. Who would that be?
The person who bought the vehicle.
Her.
Correct.
Right. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a loan officer.
How old are your children?
7 and 3.
Are these your only two children?
Yes, they are.
I want to tell you something, sir.
They are not, Your Honor, but...
They maybe his only two children with you, he meant.
Yes.
He's slick. The greatest gift you can give your children is a sense of morality, right and wrong. I hope that they can get that from their mother, because based upon what you tell me, they're certainly not getting it from you.
And how is that?
I'm going to tell you how that is.
Please do.
Because it seems to me like you've been getting the cream and she's been getting the skim on this milk.
Wow.
Really? I don't have money for car payments, $485. I didn't ask you for it. Therefore, it wasn't a loan. I took the candy, I gave it to my mother and my grandmother.
As it was
You
supposed
need
to go?
quiet. You want the money? Go to my mother and my grandmother. Sorry, I can't call you when I have the kids this weekend because my phone was cut off. You want to make a payment on it? Go ahead and do it. Otherwise, not going to be able to get in touch with you and you can't get in touch with the kids. And she does it. I have a job. I don't have a job. I got fired from my job. I got laid off from my job. I disappeared for 6 weeks. Sometimes I pick my kids up. Sometimes I don't. That sounds pretty amoral to me. In any event, what you want him to be responsible for is the fact that you had to file for bankruptcy because you had to pay for the car that he wrecked. That's the basis of your claim. And I'm going to tell this to you. You divorced him for a reason. Is that right?
Definitely.
Why would you think that the things that caused you to divorce him all of a sudden were going to change once he became a divorced person? Was he responsible when you were married to him?
No, he wasn't.
Was he an avoidance person when you were married to him?
Definitely.
Was it always somebody else's fault when you were married to him?
Oh, yeah.
Why would you think, madam, that a brief year or two, considering that in that brief period of time he hadn't done the right thing, would change him? So, if you gave him the car, you keep the insurance on it.
Your Honor, he did have insurance on the vehicle at one time when he took possession of it. He had gotten the insurance, he handed a fake insurance card to the police.
Listen to me. Was he responsible when you were married to him?
No.
Did he lie to you?
Many times.
So why would you place any credibility in the statement, I have insurance, when he knows that all he's got to do is, if he has an accident, here, babe, you take care of the forms. You go chasing the person who was responsible. I'm not responsible for anything. So I'm not giving you money for your bankruptcy. Be smart. He owes you $565. It's cheap. But if you're going to teach your children any morality at all, you better make sure you do it yourself. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The real reason we're here is because I was taking my ex to family court for legalized visitation, and within a week of her receiving the papers, I received a summons that she was suing me.
His girlfriend had told me that he had received several $1,000s. I called him and he said he paid other bills with it and could care less about my money, and he told me to file, so I filed against him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams versus Sensei. Step forward, please.
26-year-old business owner Carrie Williams is suing her ex-fiancé, plumber Joseph Sensi, for unpaid credit card charges, a trip to Hawaii, and damage to her car. Joseph says Carrie won't give back the engagement ring.
Miss Williams, Mr. Sensi was your former fiancé.
Correct.
How long were you engaged?
9 months.
And how long did you live together?
A little over a year.
It is your claim that Mr. Sensi owes you a whole bunch of money. You claimed that sometime, I think it was November of 2002, he damaged your car. Is that right?
Damage to my car was in June.
And when did you break up?
December 19th of 2002.
So in 6 months, he didn't pay for that car.
No.
And then you claim in November of 2002, you went to Hawaii to attend your brother's wedding, and he was supposed to pay for half the trip, and he didn't. Is that right? Then you claim that while you were together, he made many charges on your credit card that's in your name, and he hasn't paid those charges. Is that right?
Correct.
And Mr. Sensi says that while you were together and while you were living together, you had pooled your money. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you have a joint bank account?
Yes, we did.
And he put his check into the account, and you paid the bills?
Yes.
So that whatever money you believe that he owes you was paid as a result of his putting his paycheck into the account. And you want to pay the bill for the trip, you pay the bill for the trip. You want to pay the bill for the car damage, you pay the bill for the car damage. Aside from the fact he says that you've damaged his car as well. By the way, he also says you have the engagement ring. Is that true?
That is correct.
Why is that?
He owes me a lot of money, Your Honor, and I just didn't feel right being able to give him something, and in return, when he owes me a lot of money, I just didn't feel right about that.
Really? Well, let's figure that out. Where did you buy the ring, sir?
Case, jeweler.
How much did you pay for it?
$3,000, $3,000.
Where's the ring?
At home.
If I give you anything, Miss Williams, you have to understand that I'm deducting $3,000 from that.
Can I give him the ring back?
If you would have brought it to court today, I would have said fine, but you didn't. I'm not interested in anything you have to say. How much money were you earning for the 9 months you lived together, sir?
Between $2,000 and up.
And how much money did you give Miss Williams when you were living together?
I pretty much all of it in the bank account.
He put his whole paycheck in the account?
No, Your Honor. He has a son, a 4-year-old son, and he pays child support to his son.
How much do you pay in child support, Mr. Sensi?
$600.
$600 a month.
Yeah.
Now, what was the rent on this apartment?
$1,070, Your Honor.
And what other expenses did you have?
The usual, electricity, cable, car payments.
Let's go to car payments. How much was his car payment?
Mine was $250.
And how much was your car payment?
$450.
So your car payment was $200 more than his.
That's correct.
And he was putting in a little bit less because he was paying $600 a month child support.
Yes.
Did you have your car fixed when he had an accident in your car?
No, actually, it's still damaged, and I do have the pictures.
Why didn't you fix it?
I haven't had the money, Your Honor, to repair it.
Baloney. If it happened in June and you wanted to have your car repaired, what you do is, when he gives you his paycheck in June, you go and take your car and you have it repaired and you do it. It happened in June, you didn't break up until December. That's 6 months. Forget about the car. As you can see, I'm unsympathetic so far with your position. Now let's get to the trip to Hawaii. Trip to the Hawaii was in November to your brother's wedding. How did you pay for the tickets?
My mother and father actually paid for our tickets because we could not financially afford to do it at the time.
So why did you go to Hawaii for your brother's wedding if the parents paid for it?
It was my brother's wedding. I felt like I needed to be there, and considering he was my fiance, I wanted him to be around.
Then you pay for it.
We didn't have the money, Your Honor.
Then you borrowed it, you paid it back. It was your brother's wedding. You wanted to go. You wanted him to go with you. He's giving you all his money, madam. If you and he cannot afford to go to your brother's wedding in Hawaii and you want to go anyway, and he's giving you his whole paycheck, and you're the one who's deciding what bills to pay and what bills not to pay, then you don't go to your brother's wedding, or go yourself. And you wanted him to go with you? Go. Pay for it. Pay for it.
We both decided that we were going to go. He said, with the next paycheck, I will pay you. It was a family decision. We decided to do it together.
And he never paid me on the next paycheck.
Listen to me. He put his whole paycheck into their joint account. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect.
We shared numerous credit cards together, Your Honor, that I charged in my name because he has no credit at all. He couldn't get credit cards in his name.
Listen to me.
I was the idiot who did it all to myself.
Then what you have to do is say, I'm the idiot. Why are you visiting your lunacy on the court system?
Because I would think that the court system would be unfair to me due to the fact that I have all of this evidence, which I would love the opportunity to prove to you.
Me. We do not have courts in this country that deal with the problems of people who choose to live together. You entangle your finances, and then you expect courts to waste valuable time in untangling your mess. There is no question in my mind that he was charging things on a credit card that was in your name because you gave him permission to do that. You were responsible for the finances. He's given you the money.
You planned on staying together.
Listen to me. Don't interfere. Of course they planned on staying together. And if they planned on staying together, and if they were together, we wouldn't be here.
My mother and father have been married for over 30 years. They set a very good example on what marriage should be like. I've never been engaged before. This was the man I was going to spend the rest of my life with.
Correct.
Yeah, we're engaged. I treated our relationship as if we were getting married. We
Listen
were
to
planning
me.
Our wedding.
Engaged is not married. Pay attention. They're married for 35 years or 30 years or however long they're married. Courts recognize their relationship. If they gave you a very good example of what marriage is, then what you do is you don't live together and open up a joint bank account and joint credit cards and joint debts and joint obligations until you are
married.
Right. And if you choose not to do that, don't bother me.
Carrie,
you
why
have an
did you break
engagement
up?
ring. Sell it.
Well,
Goodbye.
I would like to tell you, Your Honor, that I have a police report. Oh,
Parties are excused. You may step out. 5 on the count of the matter of Smith versus Romero. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Smith, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you while you were crossing a street.
Yes,
You were
ma'am.
crossing the street, she was driving her car. Ms. Romero, who you didn't know prior to this incident, says that whatever she did, she acted in self-defense. So why don't you tell me when this happened?
The date was January 28th. It was a Tuesday, about 8:50 in the morning.
January 28th of 2003 at 8:50 a.m.
Yes.
And where did it happen?
On the corner of Cherokee and Bayard.
All right, and what were you doing there?
I was getting off the bus going to school, and I proceeded to cross the street.
How wide is the street?
I have exactly the pictures right here.
Thanks, Bert. Okay, I see where you got off the bus and I see the street. So tell me what happened.
I proceeded to cross the street. I was halfway there. All of a sudden, I heard honking, just honking, and she proceeded to push on the gas and bump my knee. And
were you walking slowly?
No, I wasn't. I was walking my normal. I did it every day. And
who do you live with, Miss Smith?
I live by myself with me and my kids.
How many children do you have?
3.
And how do you support yourself?
I'm a file clerk right now.
Okay, do you get any sort of disability?
No. But I am currently going through therapy ever since this happened.
Prior to this happening?
Prior to this happening.
Whatever.
Sorry.
Before this happened, were you getting any treatment?
No. Before
any
the
medication?
No. And I traveled that road. I traveled that road every
so
time.
you're crossing the street and she hit your knee with the car. And then what happened?
As soon as I got on the phone with the cops.
You got on the phone or she did?
No, as soon as I grabbed the phone from the passerby said she was going to call the cops, She reached into her car and threw a bottle at my chest and then took off. She just took off. I got her license plate number, though, and that's when I had called the cops. I got a police report.
Can I see it, please? Who was this lady who's with you?
This is my mother. She,
Okay, I just wanted to know. She wasn't there that day.
No. But she saw bruises on me from the bottle. She had to take me to school because I was so scared to catch the bus because nothing like this ever happened to me, and I was just a pedestrian. It could have happened to anybody. She was just, I guess, having a bad day and took it out on me.
Did you seek medical treatment?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
Can I see the medical report, please?
And I am currently still having back pains and going through therapy. I think I missed about a week of school after that. I couldn't even go to school that day because I was so traumatized of what she did to me. And any other time, I would have been very, very aggressive towards her. I didn't even touch this lady. All we did was argue. She's the one that assaulted me. And
Okay.
I feel so traumatized.
All right, Mr. Romero, now I'll hear you.
Okay. She was in the middle of the street. There was no signs or, you know, she was just in the middle of the street.
Look
I was
at me.
driving.
Look at me.
Sorry. I was driving. I honked at her so she could get out of the street. She then walks up to my car, hits my car with her hand. So, you know, I get out of my car partially so I could tell her to get out of the way. Then she starts cussing at me, talking trash to me. So a lady comes and says, I'm going to call the cops on you. You guys break it up. So I'm getting back in my car. She slams the door on my leg. So I, in self-defense, she would not get out of the way. I had a plastic bottle of juice. It wasn't even full. I threw it at her so she'd get out of the way. I left. I didn't know what. She's twice my size. I don't know what she was going to do. So I left. There was not even a police case. They dropped it.
Let's go back.
Okay.
She had just gotten off the bus and she was crossing the street. Is that right?
More like messing around in the street.
I don't know what you mean messing around in the street.
Okay. Well, she was in the middle of the street, basically.
And you were coming down that street.
Right.
How far away from her was your car when you first saw her?
A few feet.
That's impossible. Had you just turned onto the street?
Yeah, no, I was driving down the street.
Right. So
she was in the middle of the street, so I...
Ms. Romero, I want you to pay attention. You're driving down the street. I'm sitting in my car. I'm looking to the back of the courtroom. Let us say Miss Smith was standing in the middle of the courtroom back there. I would see her from a distance of, let us say, 30 feet. So when you say you saw when she was a couple of feet away from you, that's stupid. Do you understand? You're driving down the street, and how far away from your car was she when you first saw her?
Oh, okay.
Duh.
I don't know.
Point to something in this room.
Okay, I saw her, like, from here.
From where you are to where?
To that guy right there.
Officer Bird.
Officer
That's probably about 20 feet.
Okay.
So you were paying attention enough to see her approximately 20 feet away from you. Should have been more, because if you were paying attention, you were more than 20 feet into the street, right?
Exactly. Right.
What were you doing? Were you on the phone?
No.
Now, when you saw her from approximately 20 feet away, where was she in this street? Was she in the middle of the street?
She was in my lane. When I was driving, she was in my lane, like standing, whatever she was doing.
Well, she wasn't just standing there. She was walking across the street slowly.
Yeah.
Right?
She should have.
Listen to me. She was walking across the street very slowly. Correct? She's not an idiot. She's not just standing in the middle of the street contemplating, you know, her navel. She's walking, maybe she was daydreaming about something, but she's walking across the street very slowly. So what did you do?
I stopped a few feet in front of her, honked my horn at her.
Why did you honk your horn?
Because she wouldn't get out of the street.
That's not true. She was crossing the street. She was just crossing
Well,
slowly.
she should have crossed at a crosswalk you know, that's what they're for. Not to mess around in the street, really. She was in the street walking slowly, so I stopped, I honked at her.
So why didn't you wait for me to cross?
Shh, just a second.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Don't answer her.
Sorry.
I'm sorry would be nice here for acting badly.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Put your hand down. Go like this with your nails. Go like this. Good. Now stop.
And later today,
The two of you were out there tooling around on the jet skis. Mr. Kilgore says this accident happened and it was your fault. You hit his jet ski. So I want to know which one of you was at fault. You can huddle and you can make up your mind. Get together.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Barbie Smith claims Angeline Romero assaulted her while crossing the street. Angeline claims Barbie slapped her car.
Somebody is crossing the street. This is not a busy thoroughfare. There aren't a lot of cars there. That's the kind of street it looks like because I saw pictures of it. You had several choices. You could have just sat in your car and waited for her to get across the street. If she's slow, she's slow. Some people are fast, some people are slow. You're not the crosswalk monitor. It's not your job to tell her by honking your horn that she should have crossed the street at some other location. She was crossing the street. Pedestrian always has the right of way. Did you ever hear that statement?
Yeah, but also, if you see a car coming at you, I'm sure you would hurry it up.
Well, I certainly would.
Lollygag in the street when a car's coming.
Oh, my God.
That maybe is true. But you're driving a car, several thousand pounds of vehicle, and she is crossing the street. Miss Romero, so you can't act like a jerk. Which you did. You acted like a jerk. And you can't. And I believe that that's exactly what you did. Once you honked your horn, she got annoyed, and maybe she just stood there. Is that right?
Right.
I mean, I was certain things. Listen to me. Don't get me traumatized, Miss Smith.
Traumatized by what?
Miss Romero, shut your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You did the wrong thing. 100% wrong thing. She didn't act in a smart fashion because once you honked your horn, instead of moving along, you said, what's she honking her horn at? And I'm going to just stand here and really irritate her. Right?
I really didn't want to.
Hey, don't fool around with me. You just stood there. And then she crept up her car and she hit you with the bumper.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Sure you did, because that's what the doctor says. Sure you did. Wrong, 100% wrong. And you were 100% wrong. Because what you should have done is when Miss Idiot over here decided to honk the horn at you, you should have just walked across the street and forgotten about it. Even your mother knows that's true, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You try to avoid a confrontation, Miss Smith. You don't try to precipitate one. She didn't act like a responsible driver.
Right.
You acted like a hothead pedestrian. And I also believe that once she hit you or got close enough to you to touch you with her bumper, you slammed her car with your hand. Like that.
Like, what are you doing?
Just a minute. Like that. Right?
Right.
You forgot to tell me that, Miss Smith. How come in your story you forgot to tell me that? Do you understand there are certain things that have a common human experience? If you live long enough, you've seen it. I have actually witnessed my own husband crossing the street, and he felt as if a car got too close. Slapped the car. And he is what I consider a relatively intelligent man. A man, so those things are not necessarily, but I've seen him do that. And I've seen a lot of other people do that. So that's what you did. I know that's what you did.
Yeah, I did that.
And then she got out of her car and she threw a bottle at you. Further stupid. Further stupid. Put your hand down. Go like this with your nails. Go like this. Good. Now stop. If I had to choose fault, you would be at fault because you had no right to honk your horn at her. She is the pedestrian. She has the right of way. She may have been traveling too slowly for you. If she were walking with a walker or a cane, maybe you would have been smart enough to stop and not honk your horn. But maybe you're that stupid that you felt as if people who have walkers and people with canes should walk at some place other than where I'm driving. So ultimately, it's your fault. and you have to be punished for being at fault. You, however, don't get what you're looking for, and what you're looking for in this lawsuit is, for your aggravation, pain, and suffering, $5,000. I want you to get that figure out of your mind, because you are partially responsible for all of this because you decided to play, I'm not getting out of the street. I'm entitled to be in this street as much as she's entitled to drive in this street. So you had a lot of aggravation. You had a little bit of pain and suffering. That's worth $500. That's your judgment. Judge for the plaintiff.
Thank you, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think she needs to stop calling me stupid.
I'm satisfied with it.
She needs to get a life.
It was all about respecting other people
And stop trying to sue everybody.
and letting other people cross the street.
She probably doesn't have a job, so she needs to sue someone.
And it was wrong.
The police dropped the whole case.
Denver Police Department is, they go after the big crimes.
There's no criminal case or anything.
They really don't care about little cases, so.
Look at her, she wanted to fight me. She's twice my size.
Just watch out for people, and
there's no way I'm gonna go, you know, try and fight her.
How they drive.
Obviously nothing happened.
Yeah, it was a victory.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Camper versus Kilgore. Step forward, please.
27-year-old accountant Amy Camper is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old customer service rep Justin Kilgore, for wrecking her Sea-Doo.
Ms. Camper, the defendant is a former boyfriend of yours, and you claim that last summer he was riding your Sea-Doo, which is one of those water things that you drive and everybody drives too fast. And he had an accident and he caused some damage. You want him to pay for the damage. Mr. Kilgore says that he was riding the Sea-Doo. There was an accident. It was Stevie's fault, not his fault. Stevie ran into him. And aside from that, you should have had insurance because you let everybody drive your Sea-Doo, and you shouldn't have let him nor anyone else drive it unless you had appropriate insurance. That's your defense.
Correct.
So there was an accident.
Yes.
What was the date?
October 26th.
And where were you riding the Sea-Doo?
On the Colorado River, up by Parker, Arizona.
This wouldn't happen to be Stevie, would it?
Yes.
You're Stevie.
Yeah.
Step up here. Did you run into this jet ski?
Yes, I did.
Why did you do that?
I didn't do it on purpose.
Well, tell me about it.
We were riding on the Colorado River. I rear-ended him.
You rear-ended him?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
Stevie rear-ended him?
Justin turned in front of Stevie. Stevie hit Justin's wake and landed on top of my Sea-Doo.
Okay. So, Stevie, this accident was your fault?
I wouldn't say that.
Well, whose fault was it?
It's, you play at your own risk out there.
No. Listen to me. Can't have it both ways. Miss Camper, she's on land. The two of you are out there tooling around on the jet skis. Mr. Kilgore says this accident happened and it was your fault. You hit his jet ski. So I want to know which one of you was at fault. You can huddle and you can make up your mind. Get together. Get together.
You know, I'll take it. It's mine.
Was it your
It's my
fault?
Sure.
Was it your fault?
Yeah.
So, Miss Kemper, this is the story. You go and sue Stevie.
Okay.
You now have an acknowledgement.
Okay.
Right? It's his fault.
Okay.
Okay? Let me see the damage. That's a substantial amount of damage. You understand that you're responsible for this damage, sir?
I haven't seen the pictures.
I'm going to show you the pictures. Did you get an estimate?
Yes.
What was the estimate? Just tell me.
$1,350.
That's what you're going to be responsible for, Stevie. $1,300. No question. You acknowledge the accident was your fault? Clear?
I have insurance, and she does not.
So?
So, I mean, why? This is an insurance issue.
No. It's not an insurance issue, sir. If you want your insurance to pay for it, you call your insurance carrier and you tell your insurance carrier that you're involved. Pay careful attention. Take your hands out of your pockets and pay careful attention. You call your insurance company, you say, I hit Miss Kemper's vehicle. It was my fault, which you've just acknowledged, and I want my insurance carrier to pay for the damage. Do you understand? What's the name of your insurance carrier? Name of the insurance carrier.
You know what? I'm not sure. I didn't even bring it because I wasn't the one getting sued.
Just a second. Well, I want you to think hard, Stevie. Who insures your car?
Okay, AAA.
Does AAA also insure your Sea-Doo?
No.
Who insures your Sea-Doo?
I'm not sure. If I knew that, I would have told you by now.
Take out your wallet. Take out your driver's license.
That's pissing me off.
Bird, get his driver's license, please.
Sure.
We'll get it back to you, Mr. Stevie, as soon as we get a copy of it for the plaintiff. As soon as we get a copy of this, we'll return it to you. And then, Ms. Camper, you can sue the appropriate person if he doesn't want to report it to insurance. Do you understand?
Okay, yes.
Perfect. Case against you is dismissed, sir. Thank you very much. That's
Parties
all.
are excused. You may step out.
I tried.
The count in the matter of Bauer versus Villa. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat, please.
Miss Bauer, when were you and your husband married?
April 12th, 2003.
And in what year do you allege that you made loans to Mr. Villa?
2001, September and December.
Have a seat, sir. Your husband really isn't a party to this action, unless facts prove me mistaken. You were living with or in a relationship with Mr. Villa, is that correct, when you made these loans?
No, I was not.
But you made a loan to him?
Yes, I did. I was away on a business trip, and he had called me, and he was telling me that the current transportation he had was unsafe for our daughter when he had her on his weekends, and he was looking to upgrade and improve his vehicle for her safety.
When had your relationship with the defendant terminated?
Final termination was probably June of 1999.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, it is.
So you were away on a business trip, and the defendant had physical custody of the child?
During that weekend.
Okay, so he called you and said what?
He called to let me know that he was looking for safer transportation for our daughter. He needed a better vehicle to get to and from work. And he was asking if I could loan him the money for the down payment for a vehicle that he had found.
And what did you say?
I was hesitant at first because of the amount he was looking for. But,
What was he looking for?
He was looking for $2,000.
You were hesitant first, but?
He was insistent on how the vehicle he had was not safe for our daughter. He needed something better. So I finally gave in and spoke to the owner of the car dealer, gave them my credit card number, and took care of the transaction via the phone.
Did you draw up any papers with him?
I did not. We had a verbal agreement of repayment.
And the repayment schedule was going to be what?
As soon as possible.
That's not a schedule. And if you took this money off your credit card, that means that you were paying credit card charges.
Correct.
Did he make a payment in October?
No, he did not. I believe the first payment may have shown up in December.
In what amount?
$50.
In 2002, did he make any payments whatsoever?
Not again until September of 2002.
In what amount?
$50.
Now, that wasn't the only loan that you allege that you made to Mr. Villa. What was the other loan you allege you made to him?
The other loan took place on December 5th, also 2001. He had scheduled a dentist appointment for himself and our daughter. They both left for the dentist office, and I get a call about a half an hour later. There is an emergency. I need you to come down here. When I arrived at the dentist office, he pulled me into a room and he said, Angel's fine, but I'm not. I need help with my teeth. Can you loan me some money so I can get the tools I need to repair my gum line?
And you said?
I said yes.
And what arrangements did you make to get the money back from him?
At that time, we had also discussed that the truck loan was still outstanding and that the payments needed to at least
And
double.
he hadn't made a payment in September, October, November. Well, you said he made one in December.
Yes.
So for 3 months, he hadn't paid you any money, so you loaned him another $750. Is that right?
That's correct.
How much child support was he paying you?
$600 a month.
Does he pay his child support?
It's garnished from his wages, yes.
Okay, I'll hear you.
Well, as far as the truck is concerned, yes, I was looking to upgrade my transportation. And I actually did put down a post-dated check for $2,000. And once after speaking with Linnell, she offered to give me the $2,000 on her credit card, so I did not have to put a post-dated check because I would have had to scramble for the money. And that's what she did. She put it on her credit card as a gift to me.
Well, you say it was a gift, sir.
Yes.
I would like to hear your version, and I want you to be very careful that you don't say anything that doesn't make sense to me, because if you say something that doesn't make sense to me, you're going to be really sorry and really humiliated. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. So, you had physical custody of your daughter for a weekend.
Correct.
And you called the plaintiff.
Yes, I did.
And what did you say to her when you called her?
I let her know that I did.
What did you say? Watch my mouth. What did you say to her?
I found a truck.
And she said?
Good.
And you said?
I let her know that I had to put down
No,
$2,000.
you're not let her know. I told her.
I told her that I had to write a post-dated check for $2,000.
Why would she be interested in that information, Mr. Villa?
I don't know.
Well, you told her. I mean, it's not something. If Bert called me and I said, "Hi, Bert. Oh, it's nice to hear from you. How's everything? How is the weather in the Bay Area?" And he'd say, "Fine. How's the weather in the Northeast? By the way, I had to give a post-dated check to the truck dealership." Do you understand how stupid you sound, Mr. Villa? I told you, if you say something foolish, I'm going to make a fool out of you. So when I said to you, why would she want to know that information? You said, I don't know why. Because you were asking her for something. Right.
I don't see it that way. I saw it as her offering.
Evidently, you're not thinking too clearly. You called her to tell her that you found a truck. She said, good. You told her, I had to give them a post-dated check. And she said...
Do you want me to put it on my credit card instead?
And you said what?
No problem.
You're lucky they garnish his wages.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're a slickie. Maybe she still had feelings for you at the time, and maybe you played on that. Either way, you're not a nice person. You're slick.
And later today...
Don't you want to read the police report? Excuse me?
I got everything that I needed from you without the police report.
No, you need to read the police report.
No, Mr. Hatfield, I don't have to do anything.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Linnell Bauer says the father of her child, Daniel Villa, owes for a loan to buy a truck and for the cost to fix his teeth.
Now you're going to tell me about your teeth.
Yes.
I'm going to give you the same admonition that I gave you before. Don't tell me anything that doesn't make sense, because if it doesn't make sense, it's not true, and I'm going to make a fool out of you. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
So, then let's hear about your teeth.
Well, that's correct. My daughter and I did have a dentist appointment, and I was told that my teeth were very bad and needed to be done. I did call Linnell, yes, to come over. I wanted to talk to her. I let her know that I did not...
Not let her know. I told her.
I told her that I did not have the money, and I was going to work up the money to pay this dentist off. And she said, I will put it on my credit card for you.
And then you can pay me back.
Repayment was never discussed.
You're a slickie. You're slick. That's all. This is your husband?
Yes.
Nice guy?
Yes, he is.
You have a separate bank account?
Yes, we do.
Smart girl. Can I see the last statement on your credit card bill, please?
The credit card has long since been paid off.
Oh, good.
I do have a payment schedule that I have received from Mr. Villa showing what he has paid to date.
What has he paid to date?
The total amount is $350 that he has paid.
He at least owes you $27.50. Even if he paid $350, that hardly covers the interest. Okay. Mr. Villa, I said to you, if you say something foolish, I'm going to make you look foolish. There is no question in my mind that you called this lady, who was the mother of your child, and prevailed upon her to put some money that you needed on a credit card instead of writing a post-dated check, because you absolutely intended to make good on a post-dated check. You weren't going to give the truck company a bad check. You were just going to give them a check and say, hold it for a couple of days or hold it for a week. I want this truck. So you prevailed upon her. Maybe she still had feelings for you at the time, and maybe you played on that. Either way, you're not a nice person. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,750. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
What's done is done.
I think Judge Judy saw what I saw.
She's out of my life, and that's all that matters.
If somebody loaned you money, why would you ever make payments on it?
They're greedy. They got their money. It's the bottom line.
Once you allow someone to take advantage of you repeatedly, they keep trying to do it.
We're looking to move on with our lives. Just take it one day at a time.
Family issues shouldn't be broadcasted.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hatfield versus Siegel. Step forward, please.
Carpenter J. Hatfield is suing his ex-fiancée, Darlene Siegel, for stealing money from his wallet and for the return of the engagement ring.
Mr. Hatfield, according to what I read, you and the defendant were in a long-term relationship, and you lived together. How long had you been living together?
About 3 years, Your Honor.
You have children together?
No, ma'am.
And there came a time when you were arrested in the home.
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
October 28th, 2002.
What were you arrested for?
Not completing my work project.
As a condition of probation for another
a prior
crime?
offense, yeah.
What kind of an offense?
It was a drug offense.
Okay. Your complaint, Mr. Hatfield, is that when you were arrested in your home, the defendant went into your wallet, took out some cash, in effect stealing your money. And in addition, since you subsequently broke up, you want her to return an engagement ring. Ms. Siegel says that she does, in fact, acknowledge that she took the money out of the wallet. She says that she used it to pay household bills while you were in jail. And the ring, she says, was a ring that was given to her a very long time ago that was not an engagement ring. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
So, how much money did you have in the wallet, Mr. Hatfield?
There was $2,300 cash.
What were you doing with $2,300 in cash?
I'd sold my truck for 10 grand cash, and I had already had my loan approved for a new Tahoe. I was supposed to go down Monday morning and pay the $3,000 down payment and drive away in my Tahoe.
You sold the old truck for $10,000 in cash, and all you had left was $2,300?
Well,
What'd
yes,
you do
Your
with the
Honor.
rest?
We went to Reno for the weekend. We did, I paid some other bills, and that's what I saved because that's what I needed for the down payment on my truck.
How long did you spend in Reno?
Just one night.
You spent $7,000 in one night?
No, Your Honor. I had other bills I had to pay, and
Like what?
for one thing, I had to pay the truck off. That was $4,000, I believe, if I remember rightly. I went grocery shopping, spent about $400 on groceries, and
Okay. Now, you were arrested on the 28th of October. How long did you spend in jail?
I had a 26-day commitment.
So you were released sometime in November.
November 21st, to be exact.
When did you find out that Miss Siegel had spent the money?
When I came home, she said she...
Tell me about the conversation. You said, "Where's my money?"
Yeah.
And she said?
She said, finally she admitted that she took the wallet, because she denied it. She was still denying it for a couple days after I got home.
Well, what did she say to you?
She said she took the wallet and spent my money on bills. Household bills, electricity, I guess, I don't know. She never could produce any receipts for me.
Well, you were away on the 1st of November.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right? Did you pay rent?
No, ma'am.
Did you have a mortgage payment?
We split everything 50-50
Was there a mortgage payment due November 1st,
Yes.
Mr. Hatfield?
for $600.
So that's...
That would be my half.
When you went to jail, did you make provisions for that mortgage payment?
I didn't really have time to make provisions for anything.
So you had expected, I assume, Miss Siegel, to somehow make that mortgage payment.
Oh, yeah.
With what?
With her check that she got paid.
Not with yours.
Not with the down payment for my truck.
But the bank expects their money on November 1st.
Yes, they do.
You didn't get out till November 21st.
That's correct.
You certainly didn't need a truck while you were in prison.
No.
And then there are other bills that come into the house on the beginning of the month. So that it would be fair to say that at least some of the money that she spent was money that she spent appropriately as a responsible person in maintaining the house.
Well, I grant you that.
Perfect. Now, after she acknowledged to you several days after November 21st that she did spend this money on bills, you said you were out a couple of days in jail and she finally admitted to you that she spent the money. So let's say it's the 23rd of November. When did you finally separate the two of you?
Oh, about a month later, month and a half later.
So the beginning of January?
Yes, sir.
From November 23rd until the beginning of January, where did you sleep?
Pardon me? Where did I sleep? In my bed.
Where did Miss Siegel sleep?
In my bed.
So after she acknowledged to you that she had taken this money and paid the bills, you cohabited together as you had before for the previous 3 years. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it would be fair to say, Mr. Hatfield, that but for the fact that the two of you broke up sometime in January of 2003, we would not be standing here today.
I wouldn't say that.
I would.
Well, that's you. That's not me.
I'm the only one that counts. Because if you felt that someone was a thief, like Miss Siegel, then you would either call the police, and if you didn't want to do that because of the relationship, you certainly would leave or tell her to leave or separate. But certainly you wouldn't, by cohabiting together, give her the impression that what she did in spending this money was either forgiven or appropriate.
Never gave her that impression whatsoever.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Hatfield. When you shared the same bed together, did you share the same bed together in the biblical sense, sir?
What do you mean? We slept together, yeah. That doesn't mean it's okay to steal my wallet and spend my money.
That's what you think.
And then throw my wallet in the trash somewhere.
That's what you think. You
That's
see, you know
what I
what? You know what a woman thinks? I took the money, he went to jail. We had bills to pay. We had mortgage, we had gas, we had electric, we had sewer, we had garbage, we had credit card bills, we had whatever we had. I took the money. By the way, she says it was a lot less than $2,300. Is that right?
That's right.
How much was
it? It was $1,700 cash.
Okay. So a woman says, I used that money to pay bills. And you get mad and you have an explosion. How could you take my wallet? And how could you spend the money without my permission? That was a... But, honey, let's go to bed. So a woman says to herself, mad, mad. He's not so mad because, you know, we're living together as a family.
Where else would we live?
Not together.
When I got out of jail, I had no truck, no
together.
money, no job.
You could live on the couch.
Excuse me? I owned everything in the house.
Did you tell her to leave?
Eventually.
No. On the 21st or the 22nd of November, Mr. Hatfield, did you say, get out, you stole my wallet?
No,
or
I
did
did
you
not.
say, come to bed, honey? Two different things, Mr. Hatfield.
Wasn't like that, but we were arguing and fighting for the whole month.
It's possible.
Because of this.
That's possible. But in between, Mr. Hatfield, in between, there was between the sheets.
Do you think
And
we
in
had
the
sex?
law-
Is that what
and-
you're
and
asking
the
me? Did we have
law- and
sex
in the
during
law-
that time?
Shh, listen to me.
No, we did not.
Did you just say to me, Mr. Hatfield, am I asking you to abstain for all that time? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Did you abstain while you were in prison?
You betcha.
Now, let's get to the engagement ring. When did he give you this ring, Miss Siegel?
I don't remember exact date, but it was about 2 years ago.
Let me see it.
I no longer have the ring.
Why not?
Because when I took it off to take a shower and it was at his house, I don't know. It's not there. I don't have it any longer.
I don't believe that either.
I don't have it.
Well, let me see the bill for the ring.
She had that too. She took the receipt and the warranty for the ring and everything else.
Just a second. So, what you have to do if you come to court is you go to the jeweler and say, I lost my receipt. Could you please give me another one?
I have a statement from him. I don't know.
I don't read statements from him. I need a receipt from the jeweler. That's what's necessary. Anyway, Mr. Hatfield, you don't have the case. If you no longer have a relationship with Miss Siegel, you have to put a period and say goodbye. It's over.
Don't you want to read the police report?
No.
Excuse me?
I got everything that I needed from you without the police report.
No, you need to read the police report.
No, Mr. Hatfield, I don't have to do anything. All I know is that you were incarcerated on the 28th of October. You got out of jail the 21st of November. According to you, the issue of what happened to the money was resolved on or about the 23rd of November. And from the 23rd of November to the beginning of January 2003, you cohabited with the defendant. And as far as I am concerned, in the law, that makes a statement to me that this money that was used to pay household bills, which was the correct thing to do.
Well, you're
Goodbye.
wrong. You're dead wrong.
Parties are excused. Case number 24 on the calendar in the matter of Collins versus Bonsell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Collins, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you after a hockey game.
Yes.
You're both participants in that game, and you claim that you were seriously injured.
Yes.
You wanted to pay not only all of your medical bills, but also pain and suffering and damage for the assault. Mr. Bonsell says you started this altercation, and you may have gotten the tough end of this deal, but that was of your own doing because you started it. Is this a professional hockey team?
No, this is an adult hockey league that's just for fun.
Okay, there's no money that changes hands. No. How long have you been playing, sir?
Probably for 8-9 years.
And how old are you now?
I'm 20.
And what's the name of your team?
We are the Vipers.
Mr. Bonsell, what's the name of your team?
It's the Heat, Your Honor.
And how long have you been playing, sir?
9 years. I'm 30 years old.
Had you ever played before against each other?
Numerous times.
Ever had any trouble before?
Yes.
Not necessarily.
You had trouble with him before?
Yes.
Oh, tell me about it.
We've had problems on the ice before while playing games. I am a goalie.
Anything unusual?
Not really. I've had problems with other players also, but nothing really off the ice. Maybe some words exchange.
I'm talking about on the ice. I mean, on the ice, I see all of the idiots that are on the ice fighting with each other and hitting them with sticks and punching. And I don't watch that sport a lot, but it sounds to me as if it's sort of taken the place of the old gladiators. You know, they were allowed to hit, fight. You know, it's a really dumb sport. Or it may not be a dumb sport. It's dumb the way it's played.
Parts of it, maybe, but...
I'm glad you agree with that, sir. So let's get back to this particular day. Give me the date of this incident.
November 18th of 2002.
And your team won or lost?
We lost.
According to what I read in the complaint and in the answer, when the game is over, everybody's supposed to get in the line. My grandchildren do that. You know, they get in line and they sort of high-five everybody and say, good game, good game, good game, good game. Is that what's supposed to happen?
Yes.
You remember that, Bird, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Except Mr. Collins was angry that he lost. So after the game, he didn't stand in line saying, high five, good game, good game, good game. He went sulking off to the locker room. Is that right?
No. I was not angry that I lost.
You were not angry that you lost?
It's a game. I was not angry at all.
So then why didn't you stand with the rest of your teammates?
The reason why I left the ice early before the handshaking line was because Tony was in a physical argument with my brother, Ian, and there was a lot of fighting and scuffling going on the ice.
On the ice?
On the ice still.
Yes.
I had no place being involved in it. If I'm involved in that, I get thrown out for other games.
So you didn't leave the ice because you were angry that you lost. You left the ice without shaking hands because you were angry at him for fighting with your brother.
I was angry at everybody because there's not supposed to be fighting after the game.
Okay, just a second. So you were angry with everybody?
Well, there's not supposed to be fighting on the ice after the game. After the game, that's it. That's the end of the game. Leave it alone.
All I want to know is, what were you angry at, sir? Everybody else was shaking hands on your team?
No, that had not started yet.
But they were out there to do it.
They were out there, and the refs were breaking up the scuffle between Tony and my brother.
At the end of the game, did the two teams get together and shake hands at some point?
Some of the players, yes.
Not you?
Not me, and not some of... Both teams, some of the players left the ice early.
You left the ice. Mr. Poncel, did you stay on the ice to shake hands?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Okay. And then you left?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Collins.
After the game, I left the ice. I stood in front of my locker room door. I opened it. I said a couple things to my players inside my locker room. I turned around. I watched what happened on the ice. That's why I stayed next to the door so I could see what was going on. Tony,
This is Mr. Boncel.
Mr. Boncel, as he was walking by me, he said, excuse my language, you little... I said, you, Tony, and he proceeded to swing on me. I had my helmet on. I was in full gear. My helmet did come off, and I went back at him mostly to protect myself.
So you went back at him? All right.
I went back at him because he is an officer. I don't know what he's going to do.
Okay, go ahead.
After that, he grabbed me. I never actually got a punch off.
When you say you went after him, exactly what did you do?
I took maybe 2 steps towards him, and I raised my arm to hit him.
Okay. And he had already hit you?
He had already hit me and knocked my helmet off.
Okay.
But
where did he hit you?
Hurts. In the face.
Then you got into a scuffle with each other?
He grabbed me, pushed me to the ground, and when he came down on top of me, my skates do not slide on, it's a rubber matting, so they stuck, and my knees buckled underneath me. And that's when he came down on top of me, and the weight of him on top of me just twisted my ankle because I don't have
Okay,
room
so you
to
twisted your ankle?
It's a severe sprain, is what the doctor described it.
In your ankle?
In my ankle. She told me I would have been better off breaking it. It would have healed faster.
You sprained your ankle?
Yes.
Now, what injuries did you suffer in your face?
None. The helmets are designed to take a firm blow to the face.
So what you're telling me is that he didn't come in contact with your face, he came in contact with your helmet?
My helmet, which came in contact with my face.
He came in contact with your helmet?
Yes.
With his hand?
Yes.
So you weren't injured at all in your face?
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's coming out towards you, and you took a swing at him.
No, Your Honor. It wasn't a swing.
Hit him in his helmet. That's what you just said to me. How did that happen? He put his head into your hand?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ronan Collins claims fellow Hockey League member Anthony Boncel assaulted him after a game. Anthony says Ronan refused to shake hands.
Let me hear your version of the events, Mr. Boncel.
After we shook hands, I got off the ice. My witness got off the ice after me.
I just want you to look at me, Mr. Boncel.
Okay.
I'm like a truth machine, Mr. Boncel. I have something back here. The hair on the back of my neck starts to sizzle when somebody is trying to give me a soaping. Do you understand?
Yeah. Oh, I understand.
Okay, good. The truth, Mr. Boncel,
yes,
will set you free.
Yes, Your Honor. So I got off the ice. As I approached the locker room, which is right off the ice door,
I saw Mr. Collins waiting in the locker room door.
Mr. Collins says that he was waiting at the door because he was looking at the activity on the ice. Isn't that right, Mr. Collins?
Yes.
So that's true. You had to pass him in order to get to your locker.
Correct.
And what, if anything, did you say to him when you passed him?
As I passed him, I said, why don't you shake the hands like the rest of your team? Are you a poor sport or something?
Are you a poor sport? Is that what you said to him? Oh, Mr. Ponsell, I don't believe that. That probably is the connotation of what you said to him. But I'm going to run this by you once more. So let's start with the fact that I don't believe that you used those words when you were trying to impart the information to him that you thought he was a poor sport. So you want to tell me what you said to him?
That's exactly what I said, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Ponsell, we're sticking with the story. And he said what to you?
He basically started cussing at me. He came out of the locker room.
No, tell me, understand cussing. I'm older than you are. I've heard more cussing, believe me, in my life. A lot of it directed at me. What did he say to you, Mr. Ponsell?
He said, you mother, and he came out of the locker room at me.
How did he come out at you?
I was still walking as I was saying this to him and as he was saying this to me. I turned to him as he was coming out of the locker room, and that's what I hit him in his helmet with my glove that was on my hand.
So he's coming out towards you, and you took a swing at him.
No, Your Honor, it wasn't a swing.
Well, you did if you hit him in his helmet. That's what you just said to me. You hit him in his helmet.
Correct, but I didn't take a swing at him. Basically,
how did that happen? He put his head into your hand?
It's like a straight arm type movement.
Show me. Mr.
I'm sorry,
Ponsell.
my hand's open. I have a glove on, so it wasn't with a fist.
Was your hand injured?
No, it wasn't, Your Honor.
And neither was his face?
No, it wasn't, Your Honor.
Good. So far, we have a little lunging and a little stopping, no injury. What was the next thing that happened, Mr. Ponsell?
He continued to come at me. We went up against a wall. I grabbed onto his arms, and we went down to the ground, and basically I held him there until help arrived.
Go ahead. You have witnesses you want me to
Yes,
see?
I have two witnesses who saw the incidents.
Good.
Jacob and Jamie.
Hello, Your Honor. Okay, what I exactly saw was when they came off the ice, Ronan walked to his doorway to see what was going on, like he said. There was a few of his teammates in the locker room, and when he was standing in the doorway, Bonzel walked by and said, "You, Ronan." And then Ronan turned around at him and said, "You, Bonzel." And then when Bonzel went to throw a hit towards his face, I went to go searching for a ref, and then when I turned back around, Bonzel has him on the ground and Bonzel's on top.
Thank you. So you'd heard the beginning of this, is that right?
Right.
And that's different from what Mr. Collins said happened. Isn't that right, Mr. Collins?
Yes.
So she heard something different from what you reported to me.
She didn't get all of what was said.
Just a minute. She told me what she says she heard.
She got the you right.
Sit down.
Okay.
Next. Name?
Jacob.
Jacob. Where were you, and what did you hear, and what did you see?
I was coming off the ice at the time of the incident. I was probably 8 to 10 feet
You
behind.
were a player on the Vipers?
Yes. I was coming off the ice after the handshake. I was about approximately 8 to 10 feet behind Mr. Bonzel. I didn't hear what Mr. Bonzel said to Ronan. I heard Ronan say, "F you, Bonzel," and then I saw Mr. Bonzel. I don't know if he was trying to punch him or push him, but he struck his hand out at Mr. Collins, and then Mr. Collins pushed back at him, and then there was lots of players by then, and there was a big pileup in the doorway.
You said you didn't know whether he went to punch or push. Is that what you said?
Yes, his hand did strike it.
His hand struck the helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yes.
So the helmet is plastic or metal, isn't it?
Yes.
Hard.
Yes.
So you would have to be a real idiot, right, to punch at this metal.
Well, we also...
You'd have to be an idiot to punch at the metal.
Yes.
You wouldn't necessarily have to be an idiot if you just wanted to keep somebody away from you, pushing them away. But if you actually punched at this metal, you could hurt yourself.
Yes.
So would it be a fair statement, Jacob, that Mr. Bonzel had protection his glove, and it was not his intention to do any harm to Mr. Collins, but to keep him at a distance. That be a fair statement?
It would be fair, but Mr. Bonzel was the aggressor.
Really?
Ronan Collins had not stepped forward to attack Mr. Bonzel yet until Mr. Bonzel struck Ronan in the face.
He didn't strike him in the face. He pushed him away on his helmet. And if after this incident, Mr. Collins, you were hurt, if you said to me, I was hurt and I had my teeth knocked out because he went and struck me in the face, and I had done nothing to him, you would have a case. What happened was you were angry, and everybody's testosterone is all in high gear, swirling around. And you watched on the ice and you walked off because you said that you saw him messing with your brother on the ice.
Yes.
That makes you really angry.
And there were other teammates jumping in.
Whatever. You were angry at him. And you were angry, period. What happened was, at the end of the day, the two of you started up with each other, and you got the worst of the deal because he pushed you down and you twisted your ankle. Get over it. You're a big boy. Case dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Has a history of doing this off the ice and attacking players who are more vulnerable and smaller than he is.
I think the judge had it right. I think the facts speak for themselves, and she made the right decision.
I am very vulnerable off the ice, and I can't attack anybody with gear on like this.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's it's water under the bridge.
After the game is over, it's over. Nothing should happen off the ice. But things still happen every now and then out in the parking lots, out in the locker rooms. Things still happen.
Probably because they lose every time they play us.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Johnson versus Turner Hall. Step forward.
19-year-old student Courtney Johnson is suing former friends, 19-year-old Justin Turner and 20-year-old Stanley Hall, for causing her to be homeless during spring break.
You were going on spring break. They had a hotel room or a motel room. You and your girlfriend decided that you would sort of tag along and ask if you could share the hotel or motel room with them. So far, is that pretty accurate?
Mm-hmm.
They said, okay, but you're really not supposed to be here. You'll give us some money and we'll all stay together as long as we can. So far, right?
Correct. Yes.
You gave them how much?
175.
Okay, they say 164, you say 175, let's say $175. And the $175 was for how many days?
For 6 nights.
For you alone?
Yes.
Then somebody, either you or your girlfriend, went and asked for some towels. And the manager of the hotel or motel said, I rented this room to 4 guys, and this is a girl asking for some towels. You got to get out. Pretty accurate?
Right. Yeah.
You want your money back. Not only do you want your money back, $175, but you want the food that you bought, because you brought food into the room.
Correct.
That they ate. And you want money for your emotional distress.
Correct.
Get over it. That's what you get for your emotional distress. My words. Get over it. You get the same for the food. The only thing we're going to talk about here is $175. Who's going to talk for this team over here?
I'll talk.
And your name is?
Justin Turner.
Justin. You kept $175.
Correct.
Right? You can't keep $175. The $175 was for 6 nights, right? She only stayed there how many nights, Justin?
1.
So why should you keep her $175?
We knew going into it that usually you have wristbands to stay at the hotel, and there was a risk that we might not all be able to stay there. So there was no disagreement that if she got kicked out, she lost her money. If we would have got kicked out, I don't believe we would have got our money either from her.
You didn't give her any money, Justin.
No.
You stayed there. How many nights?
3, 4.
So you left early?
Right. We had
Why?
to leave early. One of the people that came with us was a driver. He had problems with his car and some other stuff, and he had to go home.
But it wasn't anybody's fault that you left. Nobody threw you out.
Got it.
What do you do, Justin?
I'm a student, and I play football.
Student where?
University of Louisville.
Can you divide 175 by 6 in your head?
About $40-some.
I couldn't do it either. My calculator said that it's about $29.
$30.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Sure.
The room was $823.62. We came about where it'd be mainly about $170 a night. So basically, each person was paying $170 a night. So that's where that came from.
Are you following that? Officer Byrd? What he's saying is they decided that each person would spend $175 and pay for one night at the motel. And that would take care of their share for the entire 6 nights. Therefore, she stayed at the hotel one night, $175. Are you getting it now?
I get it.
Are you getting it now?
I get it.
Okay. I feel like I'm doing one of those Jay Leno bits, you know, when he goes jaywalking with people, right? I don't want to deal with it. When you get him outside, try to explain it to him. Listen, from the $175, we deduct $30. $145. That's what you get back. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. You on the calendar in the matter of Dolan versus Hughes. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thank you, Bert.
You are.
Miss Dolan, Mr. Hughes is your brother.
Yes.
And I gather from your complaint that you've bailed him out of jail a couple of times.
Yes.
First time you bailed him out of jail was in a dispute involving a girlfriend or something, and you're not asking for reimbursement of that. Second time you bailed him out of jail, you claim it cost you $5,000. You want the money back.
It was actually $5,208.
Well, our limit is $5,000.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes said it was very nice of you to bail him out of jail. He never asked you to do it. A loan was never created. Someone else asked you. Someone by the name of Nancy, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's not you, is it?
Yes.
Oh, Nancy. So, Ms. Dolan, tell me about the second time you bailed him out of jail.
Okay.
When was it?
It actually wasn't bailing him out of jail. It was paying for a defense attorney for him.
Oh. Was he in jail at the time?
No. He was supposed to be in jail, but he took off from Minnesota and came to California.
So he was out on a fugitive warrant?
Yes.
Was he staying with you?
He showed up at my door, yes.
So tell me about the $5,200 and some odd dollars.
So he had this other attorney that was supposed to be a really, really good attorney because he kind of got the shaft on the first attorney. And the attorney said, well, you didn't deserve all the punishment that you got. He had 3 days left of a 3-year probation. So, and anger management class and all kinds of stuff. So the sentence that he got was horrible. He got another 18 months anger management. He got 3 more years of probation. He got...
Because he did what?
He had alcohol in his system. It was his birthday, and he went out and he had beer, and they were pulled over, and that was a violation of probation. So the judge gave... the judge just like dumped on him and gave him this whole...
Sounds perfect to me.
Big, long...
These are the rules.
Right.
You break the rules, there's a consequence.
So the
they
second
didn't put
attorney...
him on a rack, did they?
Did they what?
Put him on a rack? They didn't put him on a rack?
No.
Go ahead.
So the second attorney said, I know the judge, and I will go and I will talk to the judge for you, but it's going to cost you $5,000. I had already paid for the first one, $3,000. I paid for the home monitoring system. I paid $1,200 in collect phone calls from jail.
Okay, I got, you've been a good sister so far.
So the $5,000, he decides that he's in love with Nancy, who is my best friend of the last 25 years, actually, and he works for her. Her folks own a marina in Lake Minnetonka, and he is the chef there. So,
Nancy called you.
No. Well, we talk every day on the phone. We all talk every day on the phone.
I understand it. Nancy called you and asked you for the money. That's what you said.
Well...
Don't play, Miss Dolan. That's
Nancy
what you say.
Guaranteed the money. She said she would take it
no.
out of...
Listen to me. According to your complaint, you had a conversation with Nancy. You want me to read it to you?
Okay. I had several conversations with Nancy.
I don't care what your conversations were, but your several conversations were.
It.
Only one of us can talk at one time. In October 2002, Nancy called and asked that I pay for yet another attorney. Nancy was so distraught, begged and pleaded. So you had a conversation with Nancy about the money.
And I told Nancy no. No.
Go ahead.
Nancy said, I will garnish his wages and make payments. And they did. They made 2 payments on this credit card.
Just a second. So Nancy said, he works for me. I'll put a garnish on his wages.
Yes.
So she
guaranteed the money. It's almost like
I know what a
garnish.
No, I know what a garnishment is. She didn't guarantee the money. She said, as long as he's working here for me, I will garnish his salary so that you'll get the money. Guaranteeing the money is different. Guaranteeing the money is, if he doesn't pay you back, I will.
And then she said, when I sell my house, I will give him the money to pay you off, and then he can make payments to me. That's, to me, sound like a guarantee.
Well, that's different from what you just told me, except she has to sell her house first.
She did sell her house.
Okay.
And I still don't have any money.
So why are you suing your brother?
Because he's the one that borrowed it from me.
So far, I don't have that. So far, I have she borrowed it from you.
She didn't borrow it from me. She encouraged it.
Miss Dolan, you got it all wrong, madam.
They're multimillionaires. The family is multimillionaires.
Miss
They could have wrote
Dolan,
a check
I want
for
you to
it.
pay attention to me. I understand that what you did was you advanced this money. What you are suing for in court is an oral contract. Your oral contract was with Nancy. She may not have benefited from the contract because he was the one who was in trouble. She may have benefited from it. Let's say she benefited from it because he was a valued employee for whatever reason. And she wanted to ensure that he was going to stay on the job, so she guaranteed the return of your money, even though it wasn't for her immediate benefit. That
she wanted to marry him.
Listen to me. That creates a contract. His defense to this is, sure, my sister gave me the money for the attorney, but I never agreed to pay her back.
Yes, he did.
She agreed to pay her back.
He's the one that said he would pay me back.
Well, you never told me that, Miss Dolan.
On it.
No, you never told me that, Miss Dolan. You told me your contract was with Nancy. Now I'll hear you further. You explain to me your contract with your brother. But make sure it's true, because I've already heard the first part of it. So far, I haven't heard anything about your brother.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He made 2 payments on it. That shows faith.
That shows nothing, madam. You gotta sue her, not him.
And later today,
He didn't have my permission to take our daughter over Thanksgiving.
You got drunk and shot a gun off in the house, madam. You didn't flee the house with the clothes on your back. You were stealing your daughter.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. June Dolan says her brother, Paul Hughes, owes for the cost of an attorney. Paul says it was his ex-girlfriend who borrowed the money.
Go ahead. He needed the money because he was on the run and he wanted to go back to Minnesota to be with her. They've had this love affair for 25 years on and off.
Yes.
So he said, I need $5,000. So he had gone out. He knew the attorney. He was going to try to make payments to him. He was going to do whatever he could do to pay off this money. So he asked me for the money. And I said, I don't have $5,000. I'm still making payments on the first
Fine, so you
money.
said no.
So I said, absolutely not. No. So he called, and he called, and he called, and he called back to her, and they sat and tried to work something out to get this money. Finally, he's not going anywhere when he's staying at my house. He's got a sentence hanging over his head. He's running from the law. So Nancy said, come back here and work at the Caribbean. I will garnish your wages, and we'll make the payments to you. So I said...
Your contract is with her, not with him.
But he's the one that said, will you loan me the money? I finally said, okay.
No. Listen to me. That's not what happened, Ms. Dallin. What happened was he asked to borrow the money, and you said no. And he asked you again, and you said, no, I'm still paying off the other money. Then your best friend called you, who you know has money, and said, in effect, he's going to come back. He's going to work for me in the restaurant. I'm going to garnish his salary, so you're assured of getting your money.
She guaranteed it.
Then you got to sue her, not him. You have no contract. You have no legally binding contract with your brother. Now, I'm not going into whether or not you have a legally binding contract with Nancy. You may. You may. I don't have to go into that now. She's not a party. You don't have a legally binding contract with your brother because he asked to borrow the money and you said no.
Well, I said no several times. I said no on the first one, and I finally gave in to him.
No, you gave in to her. You rejected his request until she convinced you that she would be good for the money. Then you said okay.
She never said she'd be good for the money. She said she'd take it out of his paycheck and pay it. And he made 2 payments on it. That shows faith.
That shows nothing, madam. You're suing the wrong person. You do not have a legally binding contract with your brother. You rejected his request for the money until she, your friend of 25 years, said to you, I will, in effect, get the money back to you. If it's not through him working at the restaurant, it's when I sell my house and I'm going to give him the money. But your contract was not with him. So you've got the wrong party over there. Try her. That's all. Case dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She actually had nothing to do with it. Nothing.
I didn't ask her for the money.
Hopefully we can all go out and have lunch or something and talk about it.
I'm not paying the money, so.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams Dalrymple versus Martin. Step forward, please.
Cashier Carla Williams and her children, 16-year-old Nicholas and 14-year-old Rachel, are suing Carla's ex-boyfriend, house painter Gene Martin, for the return of their belongings. Gene is countersuing Carla for unpaid rent and for shooting a gun in their house.
Why don't you two have a seat? Miss Williams, you and Mr. Martin lived together for about 10 years. You have children. I assume these are your two children. Is this your child, Mr. Martin?
Yes, it is.
And you have a child together.
Yes, ma'am.
A daughter?
Yes.
How old?
7.
Okay. Does she live with you?
Yes, she does.
According to your complaint, there was some sort of an altercation with Mr. Martin. You fled the house, and when was that?
December 1st.
And you claim that Mr. Martin, sometime after that, threw away your children's property, these two children.
Yes.
And you want either the return of that property, which of course he can't give you because he threw it away, or the value of that property. Mr. Martin says that you didn't flee the house after an altercation, but that you had a fight sometime in November, and that you shot a gun off in the house. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that Mr. Martin took your daughter, and he fled the house. He left, and you were gone for about a week with the child. Is that right?
Yes.
So far, is that correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay. After you shot the gun off in the house, what happened with Mr. And it was sometime in November. What happened with Mr. Martin?
It was the day before Thanksgiving, and I had found out Mr. Martin had been seeing another woman, and I got a little inebriated, and I did fire the gun off in the house. My brother and my mother came to get me, and I took my 2 children to Sacramento, and he took the other 2 children. We had plans to go to his mother's house in L.A. for Thanksgiving. He went to L.A. He arrived back Saturday, December 1st.
Okay. So he did take, you didn't spend Thanksgiving together as planned. He did take his son and your 7-year-old daughter, your joint 7-year-old daughter, away for about a week.
For 2 days, Your Honor.
2 days. When you came back, according to you, Mr. Martin, she then took the child and went to her brother's house.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Yeah, but he told me I couldn't be there.
Right, because you had this major falling out where you shot a gun off in the house. So you took the child, I assume without his permission.
Yes.
And you fled to your brother's house.
Correct.
And he came to your brother's house looking for his daughter, trying to get his daughter back.
Correct.
And whatever property that was left in the house that belonged to your children, because some you got, is the property we're talking about. But that sort of sets it up. Now, that's more the truth than what I got from your complaint, which was, in your complaint, you say that you fled the house with your children and with only the clothes on our backs while he was in the bathroom. The truth of the matter is you was taking your daughter without his permission.
Well, I didn't feel I needed his permission.
Why not?
Well, because he didn't have my permission to take our daughter over Thanksgiving.
You got drunk and shot a gun off in the house, madam. And you weren't taking your daughter for a planned vacation, which is what he did.
It was for Thanksgiving.
You were all supposed to go as a family, except you had a fight. And what you were doing was setting yourself up as the winner in a custody battle by taking physical custody of the child without his permission. I've been a family court judge a long time. I know exactly what you were doing.
When I was there, I was hoping we could reconcile when I came back.
Well, evidently he didn't want to reconcile, and you decided to get the advantage by taking your daughter out of the house, fleeing your house, and going to your brother's house. I'm just saying to you that what you said here in your complaint is not truthful. You didn't flee the house with the clothes on your back. You were stealing your daughter. Now, that was the 1st of December, and if these children want to leave, I think that that's a great idea. They can all go outside, even though this is their property. If they want to go outside, it's certainly fine with me.
You want to stay?
Yeah.
You
Fine.
okay?
Yeah.
How about
Good.
you? Okay.
Good. That was on December 1st. When did you come back to get your property?
Well, I got a restraining order on December 3rd.
Why did you get a restraining order? Who gave you a restraining order?
The judge.
For what?
Because he came down, pushed my kids around, tried to break through my brother's door.
Because you... And a judge gave you a restraining order?
There were other mitigating circumstances that he felt it could be necessary. He also gave me a 3-year restraining order.
I certainly hope not based on that incident.
No, that and several others.
What about a restraining order with regard to him for shooting a gun off in the house? Did he get one against you?
No, ma'am.
Did he apply for one?
Not that I know I'm aware of.
Right. How long did you leave your children's property in the house?
I contacted him on January 8th.
Did you go and get any of your property on January 8th?
No, I did not.
Did you at any time after January 8th go and retrieve property?
I did in April.
On what date? In April?
In April.
So he kept your property from December 1st to April?
No, he told me that the property had been thrown out on January 8th. That there was nothing to get.
So what did you get in April?
Just some stuff that he left behind. Our mutual daughter stuff. And there was a couple items of furniture. He kept a lot of the furniture. I paid for it.
You more than exacted your pound of flesh, madam. I don't know the history. I don't know either one of you two people. All I know is that from the bare bones facts that I've heard, there is absolutely no basis for you to have been granted a 3-year protective order against him. And you were trying to get a leg up in what was going to be a disputed custody case on the 1st of December by taking physical custody of your child at all costs. And what he was trying to do was, probably not smart, but because you had taken the child and fled, which is what you did, you waited until he went into the bathroom, and then you took the child. But you do acknowledge that,
well,
that he was in the bathroom when you fled. Yes. So he was in the bathroom when you fled with the child. Okay? And what he was trying to do, not smart, is he got furious and he went to try to get the child back. He did not file for a protective order against you for shooting off a gun in the house. Getting drunk and shooting off a gun. That requires a protective order.
He's a very abusive man, Your Honor.
He may be. What you did was wrong.
I understand that, but
what you did was wrong. What items do you say he threw out that belong to your children?
Everything. My son got his PlayStation 2 back and his boombox. My daughter got a couple days worth of clothes.
When did your son get his PlayStation 2 back?
He took it with him. He left after I did.
What do you mean he left after you did?
Jamie and I left, and then my mother and the 2 kids followed behind.
So your mother was part of this scenario that was set up?
It was not set up. I was there to reconcile.
You were there to reconcile?
Yes.
And what happened? You came back and he said...
He said, what are you doing here? And then he informed me that I wasn't going to take Jamie anywhere, and that was that, and so...
So what did you do?
After trying to talk to him and seeing that I wasn't going to get anywhere, I took her and left.
Tell me how you did that.
I picked her up, put her in the car, and we drove to Sacramento.
Where was he?
He was upstairs.
So he was upstairs, and what you did was you took your child, rather than going through a civilized court process, you took the law into your own hands. You took the child and fled. It's normal for him to come and try to get the child because you waited until he went upstairs to the bathroom, according to you, and you stole out of the house and went hundreds of miles away. So you abused the court system because then you went into court and said he tried to break down my brother's door to get my child away from me, and you got some judge to believe that without asking enough questions. You got a restraining order. So in my judgment, you abused the system. You didn't come into this courtroom with clean hands, and your case is dismissed. Thank you.
Shaw versus Wallace. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Shaw, it is your claim that the defendant defrauded you to the tune of many thousands of dollars because she told you that you were the biological father of her child, and for a substantial period of time you paid her child support, and then at some point you decided to verify that claim. You had a paternity test done, and it turns out that you are not the child's biological father, and you want the support payments back.
Correct.
When did you begin dating Miss Wallace?
I met Miss Wallace approximately May of '99.
And how long did you date her?
5 to 6 months. About the 3rd or 4th month, she told me that she missed her cycle and that she was pregnant with my child.
What did you say to her?
I was a little, surprised, but I knew that, we'd had sex, unprotected sex, and I knew it was possible.
Why did you do that? Well, I'm going to ask her the same question.
That's something that I do occasionally.
How many children do you have?
I have 3 children, 3 girls.
How old are they?
They are 26, my daughter here. I have a 19-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Quite a lapse there between judgments.
Yes, that's why I was kind of excited about, I wasn't disappointed about the fact that she was pregnant because it had been like 15, 16 years since I had a child, so I wasn't totally against the idea.
Oh, How old is your child?
My child is 2 also.
2 also?
Yes.
So you were having sex with several women at the same time?
No, Your Honor, that's not the way it occurred.
How many?
I was only having sex with her at the time.
Well, you have another child who's 2.
Well, there's about 6, 7 months difference in ages. The way it happened was Katrina started having problems shortly after she became pregnant. And approximately when she was 2 to 3 months pregnant, I knew that there wasn't going to be a relationship between the two of us. So I told her, I said, look, this is not going to work between us. I'm basically moving on. The only thing I can do at this point is help you support my child. And I moved on to a new relationship.
Didn't you ever question the fact that maybe this wasn't your child?
A little.
What do you mean a little?
I kind of jokingly said to her, you know, was she sure that, you know, that I was the father?
Do you have other children?
Yes.
How many children?
A 19-year-old and my 2-year-old.
Go ahead.
She got very upset when I questioned her and almost belligerent. And so I kind of backed off the notion that, you know, she was telling the truth, that it was my child. So,
had you ever been to court at any other time, Mr. Shaw, with regard to issues of paternity, custody, visitation with any of your other children?
yes, once.
So you know how to get to court?
Yes.
Okay. At what point, sir, did you decide to question the paternity of this child?
Well, several months after Malik was born, seemingly Katrina would interfere with the two of us trying to bond. She didn't support me as a father. She didn't support us spending time together. I would try to take him out of town with me like I would do with my younger child. And she would tell him, no, he can't go. Or I would try to keep him for several days, and most of the time she would say no. On one instance, approximately 6 to 8 months ago.
So why didn't you go to court, Mr. Shaw?
Well, it wasn't that she wouldn't let me see him at all. It's the fact that she wouldn't, if I asked for permission to take him out of town.
You're not supposed to ask her for permission. If you want to spend quality time with the child, then you go to court. Was there some other reason why you didn't want to take this matter through the courts? Did it have to do with money?
I don't think so, no.
You have a business?
Yes, I do.
What kind of business do you have?
I own several barbershops in the Atlanta area.
And how much support were you giving Miss Wallace?
I started off at $300 a month, and mind you that I had 2 other children that I was paying the same amount of support to, and I raised it at approximately $50 every 6 to 8 months or so, equally.
So how much money did you give her in total?
In total, I gave her approximately $9,000.
Is that about right?
Yes, that's about right.
Oh. According to you, you took the child for a paternity test. Do you have those test results?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them. Tell me about what happened when you took Malik for a blood test. Tell me about it.
I had, began to have little suspicions, but basically I just thought it was just me. But I was having doubts for a good period of time.
Tell me about the procedure that you used, sir. You took him on a period of visitation. You took him to a laboratory. Tell me about that. I want to know the procedure that you used.
Well, one day I asked if I could pick him up and spend some time with him. I went over, picked him up, and took him straight to the lab, and we did a paternity test, and I returned.
Which lab?
Any lab.
What?
Any lab. That's the name of the lab. It's located in Atlanta. It was the only place that I could find where I could actually do a paternity test and get the results back within a reasonable amount of time.
What was the reasonable amount of time?
This took approximately 3 weeks.
Miss Wallace, is it possible that Mr. Shaw is not Malik's father?
Yes.
So you were, in fact, having sexual relations with more than one person at the time that Malik was conceived. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. There was someone else, and I did use protection.
Are you confident that Mr. Shaw is Malik's father?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I turned around, boom, that's when the assault began. Everything went flying. He comes with a flurry of punches. It's gonna get worse, you know, I'm not gonna just sit here and let you throw punches at me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michael Shaw says ex-girlfriend Katrina Wallace lied to him about the paternity of her child. He is suing for the return of child support.
Mr. Shaw, the way to conduct a paternity test, sir, is for all parties, including the child, to be present at the same time. You understand that?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Well, I'm going to tell you. The way you conduct a paternity test is mother, alleged father, and the child go for testing at the same time so that You can identify him? Yes. She says, yes, that is Mr. Shaw. And that is my child. Do you understand?
I understand.
So we are going to adjourn this case. And you're going to go and schedule a paternity test, a DNA test, with the two of you and the child present at the same time. Clear? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we'll all come back here when I get the results. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Rendez versus Scobie, step forward, please.
24-year-old student Jesse Rendez is suing his schoolmate, 25-year-old student Donnell Scobie, for dental bills due to an assault. Donnell is countersuing for a false arrest.
Mr. Rendez, what school did you go to?
San Francisco State University.
And how long have you known Mr. Scobie?
Approximately a year and a half.
It is your claim that Mr. Scobie assaulted you, caused you some physical injury. You want him to compensate you for that and also to pay some of your dental bills.
Correct.
Mr. Scobie says that he acted in self-defense and he's countersuing. He says because of your actions, he spent some time in jail, limited time, and his academic record was placed at risk. When did this incident happen and where, sir?
It happened approximately at 4:15 on 4/18/2002 in the kinesiology department of San Francisco State University.
Tell me what happened.
First, I'd like to state that, yes, the defendant and I were friends. However, if I would have known about the defendant's history of violent crime and...
Tell me what happened.
I'll tell you what happened? Okay. Well...
And try looking at me when you tell me what happened.
Sure, sure. Okay, Your Honor. Like I said, on 4/15 on 4/18/2002, I asked the defendant to use a cellular phone of his. Being that we were friends and I have let him use my cellular phone in the past, I figured that he would definitely let me use a cell phone. He said no, he couldn't let me use the phone. I explained to him that it wasn't...
Did he tell you why?
Not at that point. He didn't tell me why. That's when I explained to him it's emergency. Can I please use the cell phone? It is an emergency. I let him know that. And then that's when he told me why he couldn't.
What did he say?
That it's not my phone. That's when we began to get into an argument. I told him, you're not going to let me use this phone, it's an emergency. That's when I said, I really don't want anything to do with you any longer. I would appreciate it if you wouldn't be my friend anymore.
Mr. Rendez, that doesn't sound like language you use when you're annoyed. Why don't you tell me what you said to him?
I exchanged violent words with him as far as...
Violent words with him?
Yeah, as far as bad words. Not violent words, bad words. You know, F you, this, don't F with me anymore. I just, you know.
Right.
That's when the defendant went outside and gestured me to fight him. I told him I did not want to fight him at school because my standing at school would be affected, Your Honor. I did not want anything to do with him as far as a physical confrontation.
No, just a second. That's not what you said to him.
Well, I did say, Your Honor, that I didn't want to have any physical confrontation at school. I said that.
You said, I don't want to have any physical confrontation at school. Those were your words. That's what you want me to believe?
Well, not like that. I said...
No. Then understand me, sir. I want you to tell me what you said to him. He's gesturing to you to come on and fight him, and you said...
Then that's when I turned away and walked away from him.
Oh, well, because you just told me before. You told him that you didn't want to have any confrontation at school to him because you didn't want it to affect your academic standing.
Correct.
That didn't take place.
No, it did. That was when we were... I'm sorry, Your Honor. That was when we were walking down the hallway. When we were walking down the hallway, that's when I said, I'm not going to fight you at school. This is going too far. I do not want to fight you at school and have anything at school to jeopardize my standing at school. Then that's when he went outside. He went outside and gestured for the fight. That's when I turned around. I began to walk away from him to diffuse the situation. I did not want a confrontation with him, Your Honor. That's when he came in. He rushed in the doors. I turned around, Your Honor, and then bam, that's when the assault occurred.
Tell me about the assault.
I turned around. Boom, that's when the assault began. Everything went flying.
No, I don't understand what boom means.
Well, boom, that's when I was struck in the face, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
That's an answer.
I'm sorry. That's when I was struck in the face.
And that's when your tooth was injured.
That's when my tooth was injured, correct. That's when my tooth was chipped.
And what did you do after you were struck in the face?
All I remember, Your Honor, is the defendant kept saying, it's going to keep getting worse, it's going to keep getting worse. He kept repeating, it's going to keep getting worse. When I was trying to get as close to the defendant as possible so I could try to wrap him up so that I wouldn't get it hit any more times. That's when I wrapped him up and we began to wrestle. I kind of shook him off me, and then that's when I went to the office to receive help, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, now, Mr. Scobie, your version of the event, sir.
Okay, it was like the plaintiff said, it was April 18th. I was with a study group studying. I needed to make a call later to a friend that I had a date with. I borrowed a friend's cell phone, went outside, made my call. As I was finishing my call, the plaintiff walked up to me, asked me, can I use your phone? And like he said before, we were friends. We played basketball numerous times together. We were on the same teams together. And I told him, the woman whose phone this is she told me to make the phone call quick for myself. So, let alone I'm not going to let the plaintiff use the phone. So I said, no, you can't use the phone, but here, I have a pocket full of change. I even gestured to give the guy some change. That's when he said, in curse words to me, you're a punk, and it just kept going on and on. I didn't know where this came from. Him and I, a couple days earlier, had hung out and actually had lunch together. Or even, I think, earlier that day.
You didn't let him have your phone, and he was frustrated, so he used a lot of bad language.
Yes, he said...
Keep going.
And so he used a bunch of foul language to me. I said, you, and I walked away from the plaintiff. That's when the plaintiff opened the door, came in, and so my back's to him. I'm walking down the hall, and gestured to me, you want to handle this?
Keep going.
And so I walk up to him, and I say, whatever, you want to handle it? What are you talking about? He goes, let's go out back. So I start walking down another hall. The whole time he's ranting and raving, I'm going to whoop your punk so-and-so. At that point, the plaintiff swooped behind me, tripped me from behind, Your Honor. I started to fall down. As I fell down, I gained my position I thought the guy was attacking me, because it wasn't like we're going to, take a walk in the park. He was telling me he's going to kick my ass. So, and that's when I turned around out of self-defense and, struck exactly. So the plaintiff then gets geared up. He comes with a flurry of punches, of which, this incident didn't just happen right here. He pursued me on numerous occasions. As I tried to walk away, he came at me with at least 5 or 6 punches. And yes, I said it's going to get worse. I'm thinking he's coming at me. I'm backpedaling in my flip-flops. It's going to get worse. I'm not going to just sit here and let you throw punches at me. At one point, I tripped on my flip-flops. The plaintiff tried to get on top of me. I grabbed the plaintiff's arms. A woman walks by. He turns his attention to her, and I slip out of the incident. He had my shirt, and he's like saying, it ain't over. It's not over, and all this stuff. And I'm like, at the worst, he's going to want to fight me again. So I headed to the health center.
Okay. You went to the health center to get your hand fixed.
Yes, I did,
You
Your Honor.
injured your hand, you hit him so hard, right?
It wasn't a calculated punch, but yes, I did injure my hand.
Because you hit him so hard?
Yes.
Okay. So what kind of injuries did you suffer, sir?
Chipped tooth, severely chipped tooth from the blow.
And you? What did you suffer?
A laceration on my left finger, left hand.
You're not even suggesting that I deal with that. You punched him, you want me to suffer?
No, he started the fight. Okay. Injuries aside, he started the fight.
Keep going.
After that, the plaintiff rushes to the office to where I work. I teach water aerobics to the elderly. I'm a weight training instructor.
So he filed a complaint?
He filed a complaint.
Were you arrested?
Yes, I was.
Scobie, what happened with those charges?
Those charges were dropped. I was readmitted to school to get back in. I had numerous teachers write letters of recommendation, which I have here.
Anything else you want to tell me, Mr. Rendez?
Yes, I would just like to say, Your Honor, the injury that I suffered from this assault, it really hurt me, Your Honor.
You behaved badly, Mr. Rendez.
I know, I said some bad things, Your Honor.
You behaved badly, Mr. Rendez.
I know.
Sir, you did.
I know, Your Honor, I said some things, but that does not excuse this man's assault on me because I said a few bad words to him. The sweep kick that he claims occurred did not occur. I did not sweep kick the defendant, Your Honor.
How do I know that?
It's written in the police report. Can I please present that?
Sure, show me. I'd like to see that.
That's a copy of the police report. I've highlighted a few things.
Shh, don't highlight, I read. This incident report, Mr. Rendez, absolutely gives your version of the events, and it gives Mr. Scobie's version of the events.
Correct.
How come you didn't highlight, because you highlighted a lot of things, Mr. Rendez, how come you didn't highlight the part of his statement where he says that you swept-kicked him against his leg and he turned around and he hit you?
Because there was no sweep kick, Your Honor.
Just a second, that's what you say. That's what you say. That's why I read the whole thing. According to your statement to the police, there was no sweep kick. According to the defendant's report to the police, there was. But you conveniently neglected to highlight that. How come?
Because that did not occur. That
No,
sweep
that's what
kick
you
did
say.
not occur, Your Honor.
You behaved badly, Mr. Rendez.
I know I did, and I definitely said some things that weren't right, and I'm sorry to the defendant for that, but I never once swept-kicked the defendant, Your Honor.
Mr. Rendez, your case is dismissed. Mr. Scobie, your counterclaim is dismissed. You both behaved badly that day. You, Mr. Rendez, I have a sense, was very, very angry. You'd asked your friend to borrow a cell phone. He said no. You overreacted. You started cursing at him. And the two of you behaved very badly. You, unfortunately, got the worst of the deal. He got a cut hand that required some stitches, and you lost a tooth. That's what happens when two people act like idiots, when two men act like idiots. If he said, no, I'm sorry, you can't borrow the cell phone because it doesn't belong to me, you turn around, you say, thank you very much, and you go find something else to do. You don't start cursing at him, because that precipitates an argument. You curse at him, you call his mother names, he curses at you, he called your mother names, and then all of a sudden you get into an incident where everybody's acting a little too hot. You both suffered. Chalk it up to experience. Goodbye.
Thank you. Parties are excused. You may step out. Judge, you may be seated. Folks have seats.
What I gather from your complaint, Ms. Green, you went to look at a house for some reason, and in the house you found this dog. And you thought the dog had been either abandoned or a stray. You took the dog at some point to a veterinarian. I assume that the veterinarian is this lady here wearing the white coat. Perceptive. I'm perceptive. And you spayed the dog, gave the dog shots, and then a day or so later you get a call from the defendant who says, you got my dog. And you said, no, I don't have your dog's at the vet, and if you want the dog, you can go get the dog, there's a vet bill, you pay it. So you want the vet bill paid by the defendant because you must have guaranteed payment on the vet bill when you brought the dog in. So I assume that that's the reason why you are suing the defendant instead of the veterinarian suing the defendant. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. The defendant says you stole her dog. You had no right to get the dog spayed and neutered. She is counterclaiming. She said she had wanted to breed this dog, which I assume is a purebred Dalmatian.
Yes.
And she's suing for thousands. $4,927. So I have a couple of questions for you. On what date did you find this dog?
Around June 10th, Your Honor. We were house hunting, and we had been looking at one house. We were about to leave, and we were talking to one of the neighbors who said that the tenants who did not own the house had left the house, and they had left the dog.
This was the house you were looking at?
Correct. We were looking at one house. The dog was at someone else's house.
At someone else's house? What does that mean, at someone else's house?
The dog was in front of another neighbor's house.
Without a leash, without a collar, just outside on the street?
Correct, on the front lawn.
What did you do?
We talked to that neighbor as well, who said that originally those people had given the dog to the Crawfords. The Crawfords had moved. They could not take the dog with them. They had returned the dog to the neighbors. The neighbors didn't want the dog. At that point, I noticed the dog had blood on her belly.
Stop. You were renting a house?
Yes.
And you started to lease that house when?
We had lived there for 2.5 years at that point.
Where did you move to?
What happened was the house was contaminated with a poisonous mold.
I asked you a question. Where did you move to?
We moved into another house in Reseda. There was still furniture inside the house.
I'm going to ask questions.
Okay.
You moved to a new house in Reseda. Is that right?
At that moment, no.
Where did you move to?
We went to stay at a friend's in a little apartment with no yard or anything. We had to move within 24 hours. We had a child that was, both of our children were very ill.
Could you just wait till I finish? On what date did you leave?
About May 1st.
Did you take your dog with you?
No, she was being...
I just answer my questions. You did not?
No, she was staying in the yard.
So is what you're telling me from May 1st, 2002 until June 10th, 2002, you left the dog outside at the old address?
Where we went to daily, as well as having the neighbors help us watch the dog. I was there constantly, packing, cleaning, sanitizing everything that was contaminated by the mold that could be saved.
Didn't you ever hear of the word kennel?
Yes. Don't you think that would be more cruel to put her in a box and let her be in her yard?
No. I think that it wouldn't be more cruel to abandon a dog for 6 weeks, alone, outside in a yard. No, I think it's more appropriate to put the dog in a kennel where there is veterinary care, where other animals couldn't get a hold of it, where perhaps other children couldn't torture it and maybe throw stones at it, where it would be watched if you couldn't take care of it, if you loved it.
We did have help from the neighbors to watch the animals for us as well as when we were there. They, you know, watching us at night to make sure when we weren't there.
I'm so far very unsympathetic with you, madam. I'm getting more unsympathetic by the moment. Where did you buy this dog?
The dog was given to us by the neighbor.
So it was a gift?
Yeah.
So you spent nothing?
To purchase her, no.
In any event, you found the dog sitting out on the front lawn.
Yes, Your Honor.
With no collar.
Correct.
What did you do with the dog? You noticed blood on her belly, so what did you do?
Yes, I took her to my veterinarian.
Okay, and you had the veterinarian check her over. You found that she was in heat.
Yes.
And you made arrangements to have the dog spayed, neutered, and shots.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
After we had spoken and she knew that I wanted the dog.
I'm speaking.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I have no sympathy for you.
And I'm getting that.
Would you leave one of your children outside in the backyard and go and give it food and water for 6 weeks?
No.
And later today,
she hit the back of my leg. It spun me around because I was on my skateboard.
You looked up and you saw her. What was she doing when you...
She looked and kind of smirked and peeled out of the driveway.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cheryl Green says dog owner Wendy Crawford owes for the cost to fix her dog.
You did have a choice, Miss Green. You understand that?
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I did not have a choice.
You did.
I am part of a rescue organization that is mandated to take strays, especially if we feel that they are in imminent danger of a health or life risk.
There are alternatives. They may not be happy alternatives, but there are alternatives. If someone has a stray dog, they don't necessarily take the dog to a private veterinarian to have the veterinarian take care of it. There are, I don't know if they have an ASPCA or a Humane Society or something else.
We are a Humane Society, Your Honor. Sorry.
Did you understand what I just said?
Yes.
Where they might take the dog and keep the dog for a certain period of time, perform whatever services need to be performed for the dog. On what date did Ms. Crawford contact you?
On the evening of the 11th.
So a day later?
Yes.
And when had the surgery been performed on the dog?
On the 11th.
That's absolutely not true, ma'am.
Well, let's find out. Step up. Tell me your name.
Dr. Heather Kriansky.
Okay. Do you know on what date the surgery was done?
I believe it was on the 11th.
Do you have the dog's chart?
Yes, Your Honor.
I wasn't contesting when the surgery had been done, just that we had spoken before she had done the surgery. That she knew I wanted her back, that she knew that we were happy.
When did you speak to her?
I spoke to her on Tuesday night.
What date?
The 10th.
Oh, did you speak to her on Tuesday night, Miss Green?
I spoke to her on Tuesday night, the 11th, Your Honor.
Well, the day before the surgery.
Was it before or after the surgery?
It was after the surgery, Your Honor.
That's absolutely not true. And I have a witness to that fact.
Who was that?
That's my husband. He was there when we
wouldn't
spoke.
believe him either. Anybody who leaves a dog for 6 weeks, I don't believe. Miss Green, bottom line is, there was no emergency in having the dog spayed at the moment that you had the dog spayed. Is that correct, doctor?
Yes.
So, that action was precipitous. I am not reimbursing. This is not your bill. Whether she has to pay the bill or her rescue society pays that bill, that's totally between the two of you. Now, let's get to your counterclaim for $5,000. You got 30 seconds.
Well, I have to tell you, I think it's very dangerous, the vet. I have papers from the vet that says that
The dog is perfectly healthy. Next. Don't start crying to me, madam. If you care about an animal, you do not leave an animal outside for 6 weeks when you move.
The neighbors were caring for her as well.
Let me explain something to you. I don't see a neighbor here.
I have signed affidavits.
I don't read signed affidavits. All I know is this lady did not go and steal your dog and didn't have a conversation with a neighbor and said, listen, I said I couldn't deal with the dog. I gave them the dog. They left. They left the dog here and told us to watch it. And I can't deal with it anymore.
And please look at this note that she left me that didn't even say that she took my dog.
Stop.
But I had to hunt.
Let me tell you something.
Her.
I am a dog owner. I would not leave my dog for 6 weeks out in a backyard or a front yard or in a house when I moved. And I don't see how you can justify in your own mind doing that.
Even if you spent every day with her?
Oh, yes. You mean you left your sick children to go over there and spend all day with the dog? Is that what you're telling me?
When they had an eventful recovery in a couple of weeks, they were there as well, playing with her in the backyard.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yes.
You're not getting any money, madam.
What about...
What about? I have no sympathy for you.
And I'm getting that. But what
you
about
are
the
getting it, you're not
bills?
getting it. You don't leave. Would you leave one of your children outside in the backyard and go and give it food and water for 6 weeks?
No.
That's the way most people feel about their animals.
And I
if
do
they
as
love
well.
them. Do you understand?
Yes.
If they love them.
And I totally understand why you're upset.
Oh, good. I'm glad you do. Because if you wouldn't leave one of your children in the backyard, giving it food and water and come over and playing with them occasionally, then you don't do the same for a dog. This dog can't fend for itself if a child comes over and decides to take a stone and throw it in the yard at the dog. Can't. Can't fend for itself if somebody comes in to steal it and to make it into a fighting dog. Can't fend for itself.
All right.
You did the wrong thing.
What else would I have done in this case?
You take the dog and find the best possible kennel you can and say, I can't take care of my dog for 4 weeks or 5 weeks because I'm moving in with a friend who has a small apartment and I don't have a friend or a relative or anyone else who's willing to take the dog. I'm going to have to spend some money to take care of it. You chose not to do that. For that, you don't get rewarded. Your counterclaim's dismissed. I've already explained to you about your case. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was very dirty, scruffy, unkempt looking. She looked like she had been on the street for days, perhaps.
I think this is just a case of someone that's nosy coming into your life and trying to impose their will. She was not filthy. She was not cared for.
We asked the neighbors. Both neighbors on both sides of the house told us that the people had left and left the dog.
She did what she wanted after speaking to me, imposed her will, and then gave her back and said, hey, I want you to pay the bill.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ibarra versus Swanner. Step forward, please.
25-year-old machinist Rudy Ibarra is suing 19-year-old secretary Amber Swanner for running him over while he was riding his skateboard.
Mr. Ibarra, who is this person?
This is my witness, Sylvia.
Okay. According to your complaint, you were riding a skateboard.
Yes.
And you were going past a driveway.
Yes, the drive-through Taco Bell.
And according to you, the defendant was driving her car, hit you
Yes.
with her car, causing you to fall off your skateboard, and you were injured.
Yes.
You want to be compensated for that,
Yes.
including your medical bills, your lost wages, pain and suffering.
Yes.
Ms. Swanner says that she did not hit you, that you fell off your skateboard in all probability. She is counterclaiming because she said that because of your false complaint, she was arrested for hit and run and spent a few days in jail, and she wants all of her expenses and also to be compensated for what she claims was a false claim by you.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me when this incident took place and what happened based upon what you observed?
It was Valentine's Day. I was skating
That
down
would be February 14th.
February 14th, yes. I was skating down the sidewalk, and I was passing through the drive-through, and I looked back, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a gray car, I don't know, brown or something, that hit the back of my leg, and it knocked me off my skateboard. And when it spun me around, and when I looked around, I was looking right at her, and I said, "You just hit me, lady." And she kind of smirched.
Just a minute, she spun you around.
She hit the back of my leg, it spun me around, because I was on my skateboard.
Right.
So it spun me around, and I landed on my butt.
Oh, and you fell. You
Yes.
left out the fall part.
Yes.
Now, when you fell, you looked up and you saw her. What was she doing when you...
She looked and kind of smirked and peeled out of the driveway.
Now, the next thing you're going to tell me is about your injuries. Tell me about your injuries.
She hit my leg, and it gave me a bruise on my leg. I couldn't work for a month.
You have a medical report?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please. What kind of work do you do, sir?
I was a machinist at the time.
Were you taken to the emergency room?
No. I refused service from the ambulance because I didn't have insurance at the time, so I went the following morning or the following day.
And you went home?
Yes.
How did you get home?
I drove myself. I have an automatic truck.
Okay, now I'll hear your version of the events.
On February 14, 2002, I was across the street at the Albertsons, and I noticed the plaintiff skateboarding back and forth from one end of the driveway in Taco Bell to the next end. And I pulled out of Albertsons and I pulled into the Taco Bell parking lot. After I got my food, I went to the end of the driveway, looked both ways, left and right, because the traffic is only coming on toward the right. And so the plaintiff was coming toward the right, or excuse me, he was coming toward the left. Sorry. And he fell right on the right side of the car. I rolled down my window and I asked him, was he okay? He proceeded to flip me off. So I figured, you know, this guy fell. I was trying to help him. I was going to call an ambulance.
He fell?
Yes, ma'am, he fell. So I went back to my house, and 20 minutes later, the sheriff's department knocked on the door. They then arrested me. I waited all day to see the judge. The judge wouldn't see me because the DA threw out the case. They said that there was not enough evidence in order to support his claim.
Were you a witness to these events?
Yes, I was.
Would you step up, please? Tell me your name.
Sylvia Apodaca.
Ms. Apodaca, do you know the plaintiff from before this incident?
No.
And you don't know the defendant?
No.
But you did observe what happened on February 14th?
Yes, I did.
Well, tell me what you observed.
I was going down the road. My mom was driving, and I'd seen him skateboarding, and I caught him. She was coming down out of the Taco Bell driveway, and him coming down on the skateboard, and she, like, bumped him, and he fell and rolled.
So you actually saw her bump him?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Any question in your mind?
No.
Did you or did you not tell that to the police?
I didn't talk to the police.
After you did as he requested, you went and got her number, her license plate number?
Actually, when she pulled out and left, and we were coming up, I was like, whoa. When I saw it happen, I was like, whoa. And I was like, she's leaving, and she was, like, giggling. I was like,
she was?
Uh-huh. And she had her hand over her mouth, and she was like that. And then we turned around and got her license plate number, and I went in where he was laying down. I asked him if he was okay, and I gave him the license plate number and my telephone number if he needed anything, because I had to go.
That's a different version of the events, madam. So I don't know why the district attorney took the action that they did. Probably they have more important things to do in the jurisdiction where you live. But you are certainly responsible for this incident, and certainly he's not responsible for your false arrest, because you weren't falsely arrested. You left the scene of an accident. My question to you, Mr. Ybarra, is your medical bills are $814.89. Is that right?
Yes.
You have any proof that you were employed at the time and that a doctor told you you had to stay home?
No, I don't. I was waiting for a fax from my boss. He was faxing here.
That's what we deal with here, sir.
Yes.
Proof.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think you were seriously hurt, Mr. Ybarra.
Well, when you're hit, have you ever been on a skateboard?
Mr. Ybarra, listen to me very carefully,
Yes,
sir.
ma'am.
If one is seriously injured, they accept emergency treatment at the scene. They don't get into their truck and drive home and wait until the next day to go to an emergency
but when you're
room.
poor,
Do you
it's
understand?
a different story. Yes,
Do you understand,
ma'am.
Mr.
I understand.
Ybarra? Very good.
Yes.
Okay. Good. However, Mr. Ybarra, you're suing for $2,500.
Yes.
$814 of that is your medical bill.
Yes.
And I don't find your request excessive.
Yes.
At all. So I'm giving you the judgment you request. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused versus Barranca Roca Mock.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. and Mrs. Tedrick, it is your claim that the three defendants vandalized your car, scratched it all up, slashed the tires.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendants say that they had nothing to do with the car being vandalized. How do you know these people?
They used to be my upstairs neighbors
How long were they your neighbors?
for probably about 8 months before they got evicted for vandalizing the car.
Did the three of you live together?
No, I was the only one that lived there. I was his neighbor.
And where did you live?
Me, I live at the same place with my mom. I don't live with her. I didn't live with her.
And what about you?
What about me? That was actually my first time over there.
How do you know them?
How do I know them? They are my friends.
How long have you known them?
How long have I known them?
Why do you keep answering my question with a question, sir? I'm not going to give you enough time to think of an answer that's not going to be honest. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. How long have you known them?
3 years.
Each of them?
No.
Who do you know 3 years? Raise your hand. Raise your... What? Don't touch her. Where do you know him from?
School.
How old are you?
18.
What do you do for a living?
I'm babysitting and I'm in school.
What about you?
What I do? I work at Safeway. That might have been why I repeated the answers, the questions you asked me.
Why, everybody at Safeway repeats questions?
It reassures me for my answer.
It's irritating.
Sorry.
What do you do?
I'm an outside vendor assistant. I purchase all our outside goods for our company.
Okay. On what night did this happen?
I believe it was the 28th of October.
Tell me what happened.
Basically that night.
Not basically. Tell me what you saw, what you heard.
Okay. Myra and her sister.
Who's Myra?
Myra's standing right to my left. Her sister is in the middle.
So you're sisters?
Yeah. Yes.
Myra and her sister, you could hear, me and Matt were sitting at my house watching TV. You could hear, loud stomping on the ground, partying. They came down to my apartment and knocked on the door. And actually, I had known them before, and we were, somewhat friends. We were nice to each other and, cordial. Basically, I told them they could come in. They came in and...
Why did they want to come in?
Just to visit, I guess.
Why did you want to go to visit in his house?
That's not true, Your Honor. We were coming home from the party, and we had invited...
Coming home from what party?
A friend's birthday party.
I thought you had people at your house.
I did. We were at a party, and then some of the people from the party came over to my place.
How many people?
Maybe 10.
So first you were at a birthday party?
Yeah.
Until what time?
Maybe like 1 o'clock.
Had there been drinking at the birthday party?
Yes, I have been drinking.
And what about you?
Yes.
What about the other 8 people at your house?
Some of them, not all of them.
Did you drive to the birthday party?
No.
You walked?
No, somebody drove me.
So tell me what happened when you came back to your house.
Like he said, he probably heard the footsteps and he opened the door. I had invited him to come up to my place. He came up there and we talked for a little bit. Then I went back down to his place.
Why? Is my question.
Because I didn't have any shot glasses.
And he did invite her.
Was I looking in your direction? Did they teach you that at Safeway?
No, they didn't. And no, you weren't.
You went down to his apartment.
Right.
Well, that's what he said. And you said, no, that's not right. But you did go down to his apartment.
That's correct.
And you went down to his apartment because you didn't have...
shot glasses.
Because you were continuing to drink.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she ask you to borrow shot glasses?
Honestly, I don't remember whether she did or not, but they stayed for maybe like 10 minutes, and then they kind of got like rowdy because they were drunk. They were starting to talk louder, and they said that I was mad dogging, is a quote, what they said, her boyfriend, and I don't even know who her boyfriend is.
You were mad dogging a boyfriend. I read that. What does that mean?
Like, all I asked him why he was always, like, being shady pretty much towards my boyfriend when he saw him, like, looking badly at him. That's all I asked him. He got really offended about it, started arguing with me, so I started arguing back and called me and my sister a couple names. And then that's when he told us to leave. We did, and we went up to my apartment.
Okay, go ahead.
So I asked them to leave after they started saying you're mad dogging my boyfriend. The exact conversation was she said, why are you always mad dogging my boyfriend and being shady? I'm like, I don't even know what your boyfriend looks like. And I was like, and anyways, you guys are rowdy, you're drunk, if you guys can leave.
Where were you?
I was at home with our daughter at a different apartment.
What do you mean at a different apartment? You two separated?
Yeah, we're still legally married, but we're separated.
So you're here only because it was your car?
Yeah,
you didn't
we're a co-owner of the car.
So you didn't see anything?
No.
You weren't there that night?
We have another witness that was there that night, yes.
Okay, but you weren't there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you could sit down.
Okay.
It keeps things clear in my mind. Go ahead.
So after I had asked them to leave, that's when they started getting really mad that I was taking offense to what they said, started yelling, and they were right at my doorway, like in the doorway, and I was just, I won't lie, I said, something derogatory to them, I can't remember at the time what it was, because they weren't leaving my house. Then I shut the door, and then they repeatedly pounded on my door, swearing, saying, let us in, no, we're going to do this to you, this to you, basically assault me. And I said, I'm not going to let you in. And then within 10 seconds, I could hear because our apartments actually have a door you have to get into before you can get into all the apartments. I heard that door open. They went around to my kitchen window, picked up a rock, and threw it through my window. So I immediately called the police.
Okay, but you didn't see anybody throw the rock at your window at
No.
that point? Okay, keep going.
So when the police came, basically, I didn't see anybody throw the rock, so the police said there's no proof, so they had to leave. So about maybe 10, 20 minutes later, I'm sitting in my living room with Matt watching TV. My sliding glass door is open, and I brought a tape of my apartment, my patio, exactly where I walked out, and turned to the left because I can see my vehicle. And I seen the 3 defendants, Myra, Matthias, all standing by the car. And the reason why I got up to look to start with was because I heard a loud psh, and those were my tires being popped. So I looked
When
out.
you say pop, pop with what?
I'm assuming with a knife when we took it to Les Schwab to get.
But they were slashed. It wasn't just the air being let out of the tires.
No, it had been punctured with a knife or something.
And you were there that evening, sir?
Yes.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Matthew.
Go ahead.
I was there that night. Joe noticed the loud slish sound and then asked me to come see what it was with him.
Come out where?
Out to the patio because he heard the loud noise and he told me to come out there. So I went out there and I saw those 3 slashed tires.
All 3 of them?
Yes.
Tell me exactly what you saw.
I stepped out, and then I looked over and then they were like on their knees by the tires.
All 3 of them?
Yes.
And then what happened?
So when I looked out there, I could see, obviously there was people coming around to other tires to slash the other 4. They slashed all 4. And then you can see them standing up and circling around the car. And
What did you say?
I didn't say anything because I didn't want to go out and get in an altercation with somebody and get in any kind of trouble. I immediately called 911. I was on the phone with them while I'm watching them finish scratch my car.
You have the 911 call?
I don't have the call, but I do have the police reports.
I'd like to see the police report.
They were all wearing very distinctive clothes, too. They were wearing barmaids' outfits, so it'd be very hard to mistake their identity.
Okay, now I'll hear you. Who's going to speak?
I will.
Go ahead.
After I went down to his apartment, we had the argument. I went back upstairs to my apartment. He was calling us names and he was threatening to kick our butt or whatever. That's when I called the cops and they had came and,
He
told
left after you had the argument and he slammed the door in your face? He started calling you names?
Yes.
From inside his apartment?
Yes, that's correct.
From inside his apartment?
He was yelling through the...
From inside his apartment?
Yes.
Okay, so you called the police?
I called the police.
Go ahead.
And they came and they told me to separate and no contact with him. We were upstairs for a little bit. We were going to 7-Eleven.
What were you going to 7-Eleven for?
Getting some food. And we had heard a broken window.
Just a second. Don't tell me what we heard. You
No,
tell me
I
what
had
you
heard a broken window.
Now, you were going to 7-Eleven. Where was the 7-Eleven?
Like 2 minutes away from my house.
How were you getting there?
We were driving.
Who was driving?
It's
not an answer.
She was driving.
The 18-year-old who was drinking.
Well, she wasn't like drunk. She had like a beer.
I had some drinks, but I wasn't.
Keep going. It's not getting happier for you.
And I heard a broken window from up in my apartment, and I didn't think anything of it because he is very violent. From the first time that he moved into our complex, his ex-wife had came up to mine and my roommate's apartment, crying, saying that her and him got in a fight. She asked
Could you
us...
move on, please, to the 28th and the 29th?
All right.
I'm
well,
not
then...
interested in this social drama.
Okay, well then after that, there was a lot of people coming in and out of my apartment, and he had been talking smack to a lot of them. So a lot of them were mad.
And they overheard. Me being amongst the men, just letting you know.
So you overheard, too, all this bad stuff?
Yes.
And that made you angry?
Somewhat, yes.
Good. So that drunk and angry and leaving to go to 7-Eleven with an 18-year-old drunk driver, you went down to get your car. Is that right? Is that right?
Yes.
Right. Let's see what I have. I have you inviting 10 people to your house, all who had been drinking up until 1 o'clock in the morning. You who have said to me that, well, it is clear that somebody, because the police wrote in their report what they observed, so somebody clearly vandalized his car that night, right?
Somebody did, yes.
So it was either you or any of your guests, including him, who heard him bad-mouthing you and who got angry. That's what you just told me.
Right.
Right? You're responsible.
I'm responsible.
Yes. You're responsible. You invited these drunken people to your house. Not only did they arrive having been drinking at 1 o'clock in the morning, but according to you, you went down to his house to get shot glasses so that they could continue to drink. And if they didn't have shot glasses, they were going to drink out of their slippers. So when you invite a bunch of drunken people to your house and continue to give them alcohol, you are responsible for what they do. That's one of the prices that you pay for inviting people and providing alcohol for people who don't do the right thing. You got it? Now, not that I don't believe that you and your sister and Mr. Safeway didn't slash the tires and didn't scratch his car, because I don't believe for 1 second that you didn't do it. I believe either you did it or you importuned somebody else to do it or you participated with them. Anybody else want to say anything to me? Perfect. Young ladies drinking is always very unattractive. Very unattractive. Now, men drinking can be unattractive, but there is nothing more unattractive than a woman who drinks and who can't control her mouth, and then can't control their actions. I'm not talking for Mr. Safeway here. Mr. Safeway knows exactly what he did that day. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,319. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Obviously, I could identify them. They were wearing distinctive outfits, barmaids' outfits.
He didn't see anything, so I don't know why he said we did it.
And if they want to lie about it, it's their problem, not mine.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Dos Santos versus Spearman, step forward, please.
22-year-old Jennifer Dos Santos is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Dwayne Spearman, for the cost of a plane ticket to Lisbon, Portugal.
This used to be your boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend anymore.
That's correct.
You and your family, I assume your family, were going to Portugal to visit relatives. It is your claim that you laid out money for him to go on that family trip with the understanding that he was going to pay you back.
That's correct.
Mr. Spearman says there was never an agreement to pay you back for the trip. You wanted him to accompany you. You wanted him to meet your family, and he didn't have the money, so you agreed to pay for it.
Yes.
Well, tell me about the agreement that you had with him, Mr. Santos.
I had spoken to him about possibly going, and I had wanted him to go. And he had always told me that he wanted to go to Europe, and he had wanted to visit several places in Europe. So I suggested for him to come with me, and he wanted to. So I purchased a plane ticket, and he had always told me that he was going to pay me back.
Why didn't he purchase the plane ticket?
He did not have a credit card, I believe, and he didn't have enough money to purchase it himself.
So he had no money?
Yeah, not at all.
Well, how could he go on a trip if he had no money?
Well, he had just started working in a new job, and he said that he was going to pay me back when he got the money.
Did you agree to pay her back?
Never.
Well, tell me how it happened, Mr. Spearman.
Well, we were dating on and off, and she originally went to see her parents down there. So she had the ticket to go down there. Well, we were broken up. We got back together. That's why she was going down there when I went. Sorry, a little nervous.
Try looking at me.
Sorry.
That'll make you even more nervous.
I know.
Go ahead.
I had to get the time off work at first, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do. When they said I could have the time off, I told her, all right, I could come, but I don't have the money. I have a bank statement that shows I didn't have any money. I was in the negatives.
She agrees she had no money.
Yes. She told everyone she was going to pay for me. She told my witness. She told my parents. Even on her life journal, I have a paper that says that she would pay for the plane ticket. I was like, why not?
Well, first let me see the paper that says she's going to pay for the plane ticket. Well, it absolutely says, I bought his plane ticket. He's visiting for 7 days. This is so blank, fabulous. I want to show him so much blank. So much to do, so little time to do it. I have a good feeling about this.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I have a conversation that took place between both of us stating that he would pay me back.
I'd like to see it.
I highlighted some of the main parts, and there's 2 screen names listed. I don't know if you can figure it out.
He says, I said I'll pay you back eventually. I'm doing that for myself. Technically, though, I didn't want to go. You offered, I said yes. I'd win. It's your word against mine. But then you do agree to pay her back, sir, right?
He just kept hounding me. No, that was the first time I had spoken to him since we broke up. And then I spoke to him afterwards, and he had told me that after that conversation took place, and he said he was not going to pay me back. She's only doing this out of spite, though. There's no just
spite.
Wanted me to go after we broke up. It's the only time this ever came about.
I tend to believe you.
Your Honor, may I see that for a second?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I
Yes.
step up and say something?
Absolutely.
I was
First,
there.
tell me your name.
I'm Andrew Palua. I was there the day that they told me that they were going to Portugal, and I kept on making jokes, you know, he's in debt, he can't afford it. She blatantly said it was a gift, and he did not have to pay her back on many occasions.
Just a second. Didn't you hear what I just said? I know that you had something that you were dying to get out and dying to say. But is there anything different from what you said than what I just said?
No.
Then you can sit down. Thank you very much. I have other things to do today. Have you looked at that now?
Yes, I actually had a comment about it.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm not denying it, but any person, I know 9th graders that could type this up and then bring
No,
it
but
to court.
I don't care. 9th graders, I got news for you. I couldn't
have the
type it up on that machine,
Sorry.
whatever that machine is. And I've had more than a 9th grade education. The question is, did you in fact write it?
Yes.
Fine.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think it should be used in court, though, because anybody could lie.
Well, when
I'm not gonna, it's not,
when you
it's not in me
graduate,
to lie. That's
listen
why.
to me. Listen to me. If you had said to me, Mr. Spearman, I didn't write that, then I would say, look, you have to prove that he wrote that. But you did.
Yes.
I believe she wanted you to go. I believe she had a good feeling about your relationship, and she wanted to share the European experience with someone that she cared about. I believe that after you broke up, when you came back, then, Mr. Spearman, you're probably a man of good conscience, and you agreed to pay her, right?
Yes.
Now, how much was the ticket?
$1,101.
Okay. And I tell you right now that the expenses that you had while you were in Portugal were limited. Your parents took you out for most of the meals that you were there, and whatever other money that you spent. But I believe he has the responsibility to pay you back for his airplane ticket. You agree with that, sir?
No, but I respect it.
I'm glad, because that email, or whatever that is, that conversation that you had, suggests that you are a man of good character. You don't want me to think otherwise, do you?
No.
Great. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,101. That's all.
Judge, you may step out. Versus Berry.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Sennett, Mr. Berry is responsible for trashing your house.
Yes, ma'am.
During a teen party. Mr. Berry has already been convicted of trashing your house during this party. He's paid court-ordered restitution in the amount of $1,000. He says he's paid enough. If your house was damaged to an extent that was greater than the $1,000 that he's contributed, go after the other people. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you very shy, Mr. Berry?
A little.
Or are you nervous?
Not really.
You're not nervous? I'm going to see what I can do to fix that. Mr. Berry, how do you know Mr. Sennett?
I'm friends with his son, Matt Sennett.
And where's Matt?
Right there.
Matt!
Yes, ma'am.
How did Mr. Berry get to your house?
I was supposed to stay at my mom's house because my dad was going out of town.
Were you living with your father at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
So, and this is your father?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're living with your father. Father's going out of town on?
Vacation.
And so you made arrangements with your former wife?
Girlfriend.
His mother?
His mother.
To take care of him?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you don't trust him in your house?
I don't trust anybody in my house.
That's it, unless you're there.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm with you, Mr. Sennett. So you send him packing to his mother's house?
Yes, ma'am.
How long, Matt, did you stay at your mom's house?
I went there for an hour or two, and then I went to my friend's house. And
which friend?
Bobby Anderson. He's sitting right there. And then we were picked up from his house by David.
Well, how did you communicate with David?
I called him.
And what did you say to him when you called him?
I said, hey, you want to come pick us
up?
up?
You said, hey?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I said, hey, you want to come pick us up and we'll hang out?
And David said?
Sure, and he came and picked us up.
And where did you go?
We went to my house, or my dad's house.
Ah, your dad didn't want you in his house?
No, ma'am.
How did you get in?
I had a key.
Send him, you take away his keys. You do a strip search.
I'm learning.
So far, it's the three of you.
Yes.
At your father's house?
Yes.
How many other people did you invite to your father's house?
Not very many, maybe 3.
6 altogether?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were you all doing there?
We were drinking.
Drinking? Let me put that down. Number 1 is drinking.
Mm-hmm.
What were you drinking?
Alcohol. We were drinking E&J.
What is that?
E&J.
Brandy.
E&J?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did you get it from?
He had it.
Who's he?
David.
David! How old are you?
20.
No, I wasn't looking in your direction. I was yelling at you. Just wait. I'll be looking your direction and yelling in a moment. How old are you?
I am 17. I was 16 at the time.
And your father let you be 17. That was very nice of him. Now, what are the names of the other 3 people that were there? Is not an answer.
Doug.
Go ahead, Doug.
David, one of his friends.
One of whose friends?
David's friends.
Who else?
And Salas.
Who else?
That's it.
6 of you. You like girls?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you have a party without girls?
It wasn't a party.
Of course you had a party. You were drinking. That's a party. You weren't working. You weren't sleeping. You weren't eating. You were drinking. Sounds like a party to me. How much of this stuff did you bring?
I didn't bring it. One of his friends that's named Reggie, he's 23 years old, he delivered it.
Reggie? You left out Reggie.
There was no Reggie. Reggie didn't bring the alcohol. He had the alcohol in his car when we got to my house.
Not true.
So you were all drinking, and what happened, Matt?
I drank too much, and I went upstairs and passed out. And then when I woke up the next day, my house was destroyed.
How'd that happen?
I talked to the people that were there, and they said that David...
Don't tell me what they said. Were you there, Bobby?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you drunk?
Yes, ma'am.
You know how the house got trashed?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to tell me?
Yes, ma'am.
Sit down. Come up here, Bobby. Now, Bobby.
All right.
No, just... What's Reggie's last name? Look at me.
I'm not sure of Reggie's last name.
How old is he?
Probably about 22, 23.
At some point during that evening, Reggie brought some liquor over, correct?
Incorrect.
He wasn't there.
He was there, but he did not bring any alcohol.
He was there. Now, is that something that Matt just forgot to tell me? Is not an answer.
Yes, and he also forgot to tell you that Brittany, my girlfriend, was also there.
Oh, so you like girls.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sennett, your son didn't tell you about Reggie. Let's proceed, sir.
All right, so David had came over to my house and picked me and Matthew up. And then we went over to Matt's dad's house. And then he slowly brought out like 4 and 5th bottles of E&J, and we started drinking around like 4 or 5. And then we slowly like played pool, and then like we was having a good old time, and then things did get out of control. And
just a minute. Doug, David P., and Victor, how did they get there?
Victor has a license, I believe, and he got over
Well, who invited them?
Matthew.
Matthew? And how did your girlfriend get there? Is not an answer.
She had got brought over by Reggie.
By Reggie, the elusive Reggie who wasn't there. Brought over his girlfriend. Did you forget that, Matt?
Reggie stayed outside the whole time.
Did you forget that?
Yes, ma'am.
See, Mr. Sennett, what I'm trying to bring home to you is there's lots of responsibility to go around here.
I understand that.
You see, he's already been convicted.
Absolutely.
He's already been sentenced. He's already paid his fines. He's already done all those things. He really doesn't have a reason to lie to me. Him, on the other hand, he's a whole different story. You understand what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were all drinking. Then everything got out of hand. And what happened?
Well, David gave me, like, his keys to his car.
How?
Because I was gonna go look for some marijuana.
So you told David, you'd go look for some marijuana, may I have the keys to your car?
And he was all for it.
He was all for it?
Yes,
for you going to look for the marijuana?
That's why he gave me his
Had
keys.
you been drinking? You told me you had all been drinking.
Yeah.
And had he been drinking?
Yeah, that's why I don't understand why he just gave me the keys, like, so
Well,
willingly.
because when you drink, you don't know what you're doing. Sometimes you act really stupid, right?
Right.
Sometimes bad things can happen when you're drinking and driving a car, right?
I didn't even make it out the driveway, really.
So you were really stupid. What did you do to the car in the driveway?
I backed into a shed.
A shed? Would that be Mr. Sennett's shed?
Yes, ma'am.
You have pictures of your house, Mr. Sennett?
I have pictures of one of the swords that they took, that somebody took out of my safe and did a lot of damage with.
I'd like to see. So after you
You can take them all.
crashed Mr. Berry's car over here, what happened?
I took off down the driveway.
And?
Stopped at the end of the driveway and just, like, sat there.
Recovering.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then what happened?
Brittany had came running after me, and then that's when I went off down the road and then, like, set off at this little dirt road and sat there and just was, like, thinking to myself, pretty much.
What were you thinking?
Like, what was I doing? You know, because I was drunk and I was driving.
So what did you do?
I eventually turned around and came back.
In the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And did he get angry?
Yes.
And what happened?
He tore up Mr. Sennett's house.
All by himself?
Yes. He threw dog food everywhere. He threw knives in the walls, and there was soap on the floor. He was sliding around, acting pretty foolish.
Go.
Matt and Bobby had invited me to Mr. Sennett's house for a party, and I picked up my friend Dave, and we went there to the party, and everybody got drunk. Matt got real drunk, fell in the pond with the phone in his hand, ripped all the weeds out of the pond, and he climbed out of the pond.
Did you do that, Matt?
No, ma'am.
Was there any damage to the pond in your house?
Yeah, there was some plants.
That would be him.
No, ma'am, I didn't.
That would be him.
I didn't sue him for that.
And then he came inside, he went upstairs, puked all over himself, and fell asleep and passed out. And then everybody else was having a good time party, and then people started throwing, it started going out of control. People started throwing knives. Well, I threw some knives, but I threw some dog food and stuff, but everybody else did the rest of the damage. And me and my friend, we slept in the living room on the couch, and I had my keys and wallet on the coffee table, and Troy came running in there saying, Bobby wrecked your car, Bobby wrecked your car. So I went there, saw Bobby in my car with like 5 people, and I took the keys from him. And then later at night when I went back to bed, I made sure I hid my keys under the couch sofa so he wouldn't get a hold of them. And there was about 15 people at the party.
I assumed that there were more that Matt just sort of misplaced, including this lovely lady, right? How many girls were there at the party?
Just me.
Sounds like my kind of party.
It was her and 2 other girls.
Do you know who the other girls were?
No.
My sister did come, but she left with Reggie.
There you go, that's one. Your sister came. I don't care if she was there for 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 7 minutes. Your sister and who else?
That was all. Just me and my sister.
So, Mr. Sennett, Mr. Berry was arrested.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else arrested?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because I was told that he did the damage.
They're all responsible.
I understand.
Especially him.
I understand.
Well, what'd you do to him?
I punished him. He's still on restriction, so...
What about paying for the damage that he caused? But for his actions, nobody would have been in your house.
I understand that. I agree with you.
So, I mean, Mr. Berry was arrested. He now has a conviction. I mean, you know, it would be different if he was 30 years old and they were 16. They're all the same. They're all idiots.
Right.
So why would you think that I would say this is this young man who did the wrong thing, no question.
Right.
Went to this party. I believe he brought some alcohol there, as did Mr. Reggie, who he forgot to tell you was there. I believe that he participated in trashing your house. I believe there were a lot of drunken people who once it got started, everything got a little bit out of hand. But bottom line is, it's all his fault.
Well, and I've told him that, you know, for bringing people over, but David did pick him up with the liquor according to all the witnesses that I spoke to.
They all got together.
But he had the liquor.
I guarantee you his friend David P. would not say that that was true.
And the fact that when he backed David's car into the building, David flipped out because of the damage that was done to his car, and that's why he just started destroying the house.
Do you think that he gave him the keys to the car?
Absolutely. He does it all the time. He lets all the kids drive his car. He needs to stop hanging around with kids underage.
He's a kid. You're not getting it, Mr. Sennett.
I understand that.
He's a kid. Did you pay your restitution?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you convicted of?
Throwing dog food and knives in the wall, and it was like a $1,000
Destruction
fee.
of personal property is what it was.
As a felony or a misdemeanor?
Misdemeanor.
Is it the only time you've ever been arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times have you been arrested? It's not an answer.
I've never been arrested, but I have been to court and been in trouble before.
When you were how old?
Just recently.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
After he put you on the couch, put his knee in your neck, forcing your mouth open, and pouring the E&J down your throat, I want you to tell me what he did next.
Terrence Sennett says his son's former friend, David Berry, trashed his home during a party. David claims he wasn't the only drunk in attendance.
So, Mr. Sennett, you have to fix appropriate blame. In my view, Mr. Berry has completed his responsibility to you.
Yes, ma'am.
I suggest that you look towards the others, including your own son, without whose complicity this whole nightmare never would have taken place. Because aside from being on restriction, and evidently your restriction wasn't too helpful because he's been in trouble since, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So if anybody needs a little straightening out, I would suggest it's him. Make him get a job and pay for whatever additional damage was done to your house.
Yes, ma'am.
Not him. He's paid it. Now, you may sit down. Your case is dismissed because now I have a second case, which is Berry versus Anderson. You would be the defendant over there. Now, I already have the story.
Yeah.
And I have a very intact memory. I can take the facts that I gleaned from the previous case and bring them here. What was the damage to your car, sir?
Like a total of $2,500.
And what amount do you feel is your responsibility? Because it's clear that Mr. Anderson took your car. He was so drunk that he couldn't drive it, and he had an accident with it before he even got out of the driveway. And I believe that you brought liquor to this party. And I believe that you also agreed that he was going to go out and get some marijuana, and you thought that was a grand old idea. Now, the fact that you may have been drunk when you said it's a grand old idea, I can't take into consideration. So what I want to know from you is, how much is your responsibility of this $2,500?
How much? None.
Yours, none. Well, how much do you think Mr. Anderson should pay of the $2,500 that it's going to take to fix your car?
All of it.
When you party and when you're drunk, things happen. You know how I said to Mr. Senate, he has to fix blame all the way around? You got punished and you had to pay because you acted stupid?
Yes.
But there were a lot of other stupid people at the party, including his own child, who caused the trouble by inviting a group of people over to his house when he knew that that was strictly off limits. Now, you are just slightly out of the kid stage, only because the law says that you're not a minor anymore. Mr. Anderson's a minor. You know that if he would have gotten killed in your car, you would have been responsible?
But the car was stolen.
No, it wasn't. Don't believe that, sir, for 1 second.
Well, I was asleep when he took my car, so technically I didn't know he took my car, so...
You know how many times I've heard the I was sleeping when he took my car story? I can think of at least 20 times this year that I heard that I was sleeping when he took my car keys because we were all drunk at the party story.
Okay.
Good. Now let me see the estimate in the pictures. And Mr. Anderson, you do believe, sir, that you are partially responsible for fixing his car. You do believe that?
No, I honestly don't.
You don't? Well, you want to tell me why?
Because he brought the alcohol and he was more than willing.
Let me ask you this question. He brought the alcohol. What did he do, sir, after he put you on the couch, put his knee in your neck, forcing your mouth open, and pouring the E&J down your throat? I want you to tell me what he did next.
Well, he didn't exactly do that, but I was...
Responsibility. Do you act responsibly?
I tried my hardest.
Do you act responsibly because it's the responsible thing to do, or do you act responsibly because you're 18?
Because it's a responsible thing to do.
That's right. Well, that's the answer. That's a good answer, sir. So if you've done something wrong and gotten behind the wheel of a car drunk, going out to commit a crime, which is to buy marijuana, and you have an accident, you have to accept some responsibility for that, right?
I understand.
So, sir, are you complaining because there are scratches on your rims?
Yes.
I want you to stop complaining about it. I don't get excited over scratched rims. I do get excited over back bumpers, however. The back bumper is a disaster. Ooh. So how much was it to put on a new bumper? $661?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Cost to install the body kit. What is that?
It's like aftermarket parts, aftermarket bumpers, like make the car wider and make it look bigger.
Why couldn't you just put a bumper on it?
Well, the original bumper's on it now.
Oh, so you put the original bumper back on it. It's just this blue thing that you wanted that made it look bigger?
It was a show car, is what I'm trying to say.
It's not a show car anymore. It used to be a show car.
Yes.
It's not a show car anymore. It will never be a show car again. Does it have a bumper on it now?
Yes.
And do you drive it?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, I think that you ought to give him something just because you have to take responsibility for what you did. You took his car and you had an accident. We're not replacing his car and putting this ridiculous kit on it that makes the bumpers look bigger.
Can I say something?
What?
Like, when he said it was a show car, it was far away from a show car.
It was a show car to him. It was his show car. You have to pay him something for doing something stupid to his property.
Yes, ma'am.
You tell me what you think is fair.
A shake of the hand, pretty much.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's fair. You can also shake his hand. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Các em thân mến, chào mừng các em đến với bài học ngày hôm nay nhé. Ở bài học này thì cô trò chúng ta sẽ cùng tính giá trị biểu thức của phân số để chúng ta ôn lại phân số này nhé. Ở đây thì đầu tiên chúng ta sẽ phân tích các số hạng của biểu thức này. Các số hạng bao gồm 17 phần 12, 13 phần 7, 6 phần 7 và 7 phần 12. Bài này rất là dễ đúng không nào? Nhưng mà các em phải biết rằng là vì sao nó lại dễ. Chúng ta phải biết cách làm thì dễ, chúng ta sẽ biết là tính chất giao hoán của phép cộng phép trừ ở đây, tức là trên biểu thức này chúng ta có thể đổi vị trí của các số hạng với nhau và kết quả của biểu thức C sẽ không thay đổi. Ở đây chúng ta sẽ viết biểu thức này ở dưới dạng như sau. Chúng ta sẽ thấy rằng là hai phân số này có cùng mẫu số thì chúng ta sẽ đưa về cùng nhau đúng không nha? Tại vì phép cộng và phép trừ của phân số thì chúng ta sẽ sử dụng cùng mẫu số và cùng mẫu số thì chúng ta sẽ tiến hành cộng với trừ nhé, hoặc là không bằng thì chúng ta phải quy đồng, ở đấy sẽ là 17 phần 12 cộng cho 7 phần 12, đúng không ạ? Cộng 13 phần 7 và chúng ta trừ đi 6 phần 7. Các em lúc thay đổi vị trí các em nhớ dấu của các số nhé. Ở đây chúng ta sẽ thấy là 24 phần 12. Các em nếu mà chưa hiểu thì cô sẽ viết rõ ra, ở đây sẽ cùng mẫu số là 17, chúng ta cộng tử số và chúng ta giữ nguyên. Ở đây sẽ là 13 trừ đi 6 phần 7. May mắn của bài toán này để là chúng ta không phải quy đồng mẫu số hay là gì cả. Ở đây sẽ là 24 phần 12 cộng cho 7 phần 7. Rất may mắn là hai số này là gì? 7 chia hết cho 7 là đương nhiên rồi, và đây 24 chia hết cho 12. Vậy thì ở đây C sẽ bằng 2 cộng cho 1 sẽ bằng 3. Giá trị của biểu thức này bằng 3. Và các em ghi nhớ này, khi chúng ta sử dụng tính chất giao hoán ở trong biểu thức này thì chúng ta phải lọc những số có cùng mẫu số để chúng ta tiến hành ghép cặp với nhau. Và tương tự bên này cũng thế, thì chúng ta sẽ rút gọn bài toán rất là dễ. Thay vì là chúng ta quy đồng một loạt là 12 đến 7, tức là mẫu số chúng là 84, thì chúng ta sẽ rút gọn dần như thế này. Và kết quả bằng 3 chúng ta chỉ cần tính nhẩm những cái số rất là nhỏ thôi, chứ không cần phải nhân báo cáo bùa lớn gì ở đây cả. Và kết quả của chúng ta sẽ là biểu thức C có giá trị bằng 3. Lúc làm các em nhớ chú ý nhé, chúng ta cộng thì chúng ta trừ, thì chúng ta phải biết bản chất của phép cộng phép trừ là chúng ta phải sử dụng cùng mẫu số. Vậy thì chúng ta sẽ giữ nguyên mẫu số và chỉ tính phân tử số thôi. Vì thế mà chúng ta ghép những cặp như thế này thì chúng ta sẽ làm rất là nhanh.